definitely need to get down there.
Yeah, we definitely will.
Slam beers.
Definitely.
I'm a bit of a bad influence, so.
Just wait till Dave and I get down there.
Yeah, you have no idea. I have had so many wives of friends demand that they're not allowed to drink with me anymore.
He's had so many friends of wives.
Yeah, there's that too.
All right, everybody, welcome out to the Log Room Guys Craft Beer Show. It is Tuesday, August 31st. Yes, I know, Dave, it's the 31st. 2021, Jersey Johnny coming at you. With me, as always, is none other than Mr. Beer Samurai. Say hello, Mr. Samurai.
I don't know what I'm shaking my head for. This looks more like the Get On With It podcast right now.
Oh, wait a minute. Did I confuse these again?
I think so.
Oh, shit. Damn it.
You had that whole thing lined up, and
I just totally screwed it up. This should have been tomorrow night. I should have been wearing this tomorrow. No. It's for tonight. It's for tonight. We're good. Yes, you'll see why in a little bit today.
You'll see a running theme.
You'll see a running theme throughout the show. This is true. And whatchamacallit? And Brian, right off the bat, is commenting that he has Dave's hat too. So do I, but I chose not to wear it because we didn't want to look like Bobbsey twins, but that's besides the point.
Oh, yeah, we could have worn the same jersey, too.
We could have worn the same jersey, too, exactly. So
it's close enough as it is.
So what are you eating? You must be eating something.
Well, it's National Trail Mix Day.
It is Happy National Trail Mix Day. I don't know if that deserves a happy.
I don't know.
No.
Depends on how you feel about trail mix, I guess. This is actually not true trail mix. It's not gorp, so to speak.
I was going to say if you were a carton beer lover, you would say Happy Gorp Day.
Yeah, good gorp, good old raisins and peanuts.
Exactly.
Which always has M&Ms in it, so I don't know why it's not called gorp.
Good old, yeah, exactly.
Right?
Gorp.
And I'm cheating a little bit. I've got like these granola bites, so it's a granola mix.
I got it. Gorp. That?
No, that's a good way.
That would work. Exactly.
A lot of people say that after drinking it.
This is true.
That's good gorp.
There you go. So anyway, oh crap! Comments are. And he wants to know will we be drinking a carton gorp. And Dan beat me to it. There you go.
I don't think I've got one.
No, I don't. I don't think I've made it in a while. But anyway,
I might. But if it was Trail Mix Day, yes. And there's also another. No, I forget what brewery it is that makes another. That makes a trail beer.
Trail beer, yeah. But in any event, I know Rising Tide makes a trail ale, Main Island Trail Ale or something like that.
Oh, yeah?
Something like that.
Well, there's another one I was thinking of. It's a brown ale, at any rate.
Gotcha. Anyway.
I forget what it's called. But so we've got that.
It's also International Blog Day, right?
Yeah. And aren't you going to start getting the blog on the Logger Room Guys get rolling again?
Yeah, for the fall we're gonna be putting up a lot more articles, a lot more blogs. I'll have a few articles in the next couple of weeks. We as a unit.
Oh, you expect me to
the royal.
Oh God, the royal. Now I'll try to write something.
Exactly.
Something.
So there'll be some fall beer articles and such like that. Plus there'll be every week. There'll be our top threes and the sports podcast top tens will be on there every week as well. So
I might write an article on this. The rise of socialism in Cuba.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
I mean that'd be a good one for them.
Why not? Yeah, that'll be perfect for the
Log
Room Guys. Absolutely, why not? So anyway. On that note, so we have a guest today. And it's one of this particular guest, and it has nothing to do with
today
beer by any means, but or his beer or what he's here for. Well, it's actually half of what he's here for, maybe a quarter or a third of what he's here for. Why we're wearing Giants jerseys is my point. But we'll
where are you going with this?
I'm going to introduce our guest. Is what I'm going with this, so we can open up a beer and actually.
I was going to say I need a beer, John. Getting thirstier and thirstier.
Exactly. So why don't we bring him on now? Without further ado, Mr. Brian Boak. Welcome to the show, sir.
Hello, and thank you for letting me in. I greatly appreciate it because now we can have a beer.
Now we can have a beer, exactly. So, Brian Boak of the Brewers Roundtable and former New Jersey Brewery Owner of Boaks Beer.
Most guests really don't wait for us to stop bullshitting before they open their beer.
This is true. Most of our recent ones, they're already halfway through their first one by the time we actually bring them on. So. Why don't you start? Why don't you tell us what you're drinking today? Because you're gonna, if it's the one I'm thinking, you're going to have me salivating. So.
No. I'm going to drag that one out to the end.
All right. I got you. All right.
Yes. So what we're going to drink is something that is in this bottle. But it's not what originally came in this bottle. Okay.
Gotcha.
This is a beer that I wanted to come out with, but never ended up coming out with. It is called Brown Magic. It is a 3.5% brown ale. So an English mild.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, and of course you have to, since I brewed it, I have to drink it in the appropriate glass.
Boaks glass. Absolutely.
That's a beautiful glass.
Matches
your hat.
Yeah. I just figured I would.
I had a bunch of stuff. I had a few glasses, and I believe I had a cap and a couple of shirts actually.
I'm pretty certain I've got a Munster Mash glass somewhere.
No,
as we say,
unless it's somebody else's. Unless it's somebody else's.
But anyway, I got a Boaks glass that I think that had that logo on it. But like we say on every show, it's probably in a box somewhere.
This is
right.
True. Mine all went by the wayside. Well, we won't rehash it.
Yes.
Melted pool of silicon.
Exactly. So in any event, looks like Brian Alt says looks like enough to share. Pass them over here. So
here we go.
There you go. I love me a good English mild. So I'll have to take a ride up north.
I brewed a 18, ended up being an 18-gallon batch.
Nice.
So,
and cheers to Brian for trying to break the fourth wall.
Yes.
Literally.
Exactly. So, Samurai, what are you drinking?
I'm going to, and I don't know how well it's going to go with these dark chocolate and sea salt and granola bites I'm eating, but
there is sea salt in them, so it might work.
There's sea salt in it, but it's the thing is, their can work. The writing on their cans don't always do so well, but you can kind of get the Finback logo on there.
Right. Yeah.
This is called 0 Point. Mm-hmm. It is a goes, and it is a coconut and sea salt goes.
There you go.
Well, the salt is a given, but sea salt is apparently special. I'm going to pour it into.
Special? Is it Himalayan pink sea salt?
I guess. Can you see the logo with the beer in it?
Barely.
Barely, yeah. Because on the other side is the Giants logo, so we're just like kind of everything Giants today.
There you go.
So you can just kind of see that. We're at Finback Sunday, taking my brother to JFK. Figure while we're out there,
there you go.
Might as well hit Finback.
Why not? I have my Giants stuff. Other than what I'm wearing is right there. Is the football right there on the TV, and then I have this gnome right here, whose name is Sherman, and I'll give you 3 guesses why his name is Sherman.
Sherman P. No, that's Finding Nemo.
No.
Sherman Way.
No, it was the best old time Giants coach that I could pick. I was gonna Lombardi would be overdone, or Jim Lee Howell, but Allie Sherman. So that's Sherman. Yeah. Sherman fit for him. That worked.
I've got that same football somewhere in a box.
There you go.
Yeah,
perfect. Yeah, I took mine out of the box.
I'm taking the hat off.
It's time for you to take that off. You might have to put it back on later, though. So
just not used to wearing hats all the time, and now my hair's a mess. But that's
I'm not used to wearing hats all the time either.
No one on the audio cast will be afraid. No one's ever seen your hair.
No one on the audio cast has ever seen my hair.
Nor mine.
Or yours.
Speaking of hair, Brian, loving the bushy beard you got going now.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I just decided to wear it out some.
There we go.
And,
there you go. Well, it's very nice.
There,
it's almost as gray as mine now.
Yeah.
It's almost as gray as mine.
You got the streaks that are still holding on for dear life.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I got the little right down here.
My
almost Lemmy.
Yes.
Almost. Yeah, exactly.
It's like Fu Manchu.
It's a good one. Yeah.
Fu Manchu.
It's almost. It's almost as my most of my brown's pretty much gone in my beard and mustache. So,
I got a few dark spots holding on.
There you go.
Those might be freckles. Not sure.
I'll be drinking Julie-ish.
Julie-ish
from Treehouse. Yeah, it's not Julius. It's Julie-ish, right? It's a I'll put it up right here. It's 5.2% New England Pale Ale, so it's not an IPA. It's a pale ale. And obviously,
hey, look, Brian had a Munster Mash. I mean, a MASH reference.
He did.
Did you notice?
He did. Did you notice that? I got a Liz pour going on here, and I'm not quite sure why. So we'll pause for a moment while that.
And while you're pausing, why don't you put up Brian's comment?
I'm going to put up Brian's comment right here.
He's going to get confused.
Sherman T. Potter would have been a good guess, but it's Ali Sherman. Ali Sherman's a former coach of the Giants.
Ali Sheedy?
Not necessarily one of the better coaches of the Giants. Just Sherman worked for that right there. The beard and everything else for the gnome, it just worked right. So anyway, good guess though, Sherman T. Potter. MASH reference, that was nice. One of my top 10 all-time comedy TV shows.
I agree.
My top 10.
I agree. Yeah. Loved MASH. Grew up with MASH.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Watched it every
week.
Every Monday night, 9 o'clock, Channel 2.
That's when it was on. Yep. Sometimes I was allowed to stay up that late.
Yes, absolutely. So it was.
Well, I guess when you're young, it's.
Yeah.
When you're not as old as us.
No, I'm older than Johnny.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean you're older than me.
That doesn't mean you're older than me.
When you said us, I assumed you
older
and John.
Dirt, so
he wasn't referring to me and him, us. He meant us, like the three of us. Yes. Anybody else out there? Right, exactly. So, in any event, but
you do know that Betty White is older than sliced bread, right?
Betty White is technically older than sliced bread. Yes, she absolutely is.
And now the last remaining survivor of the Mary Tyler Moore cast.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, with Mr. Asner passing away the other day.
Yep.
So,
but we're here to talk about beer, aren't we?
We're here to talk about beer. So I'm gonna give you guys cheers.
Cheers,
and thank you.
Absolutely.
I was trying to kill time while your Liz pour went down. It looks like it's not behaving.
No, it's not behaving, but I don't know why. But it's good. It's delicious beer. You've had it.
You would think he would know how to pour a beer.
Oh, I do know how to pour a beer, and I poured it correctly.
Well, obviously
whether it was the glass or the pour or the beer itself.
I think it's the glass.
No, actually, you know what it is? I didn't open the can all the way. I had the
you over-agitated.
The little lip was there and over-agitating the beer coming out. That's what it was. My bad. I was too excited to pour it. Get it go in the glass. So anyway, all right, cool. Well, let's get this party started, as they say. Brian, I'll ask you the first question we ask every guest. What's the first craft beer you ever had or can remember having? And it can be an ish, obviously.
Well, you have to realize I started drinking in 1977.
Okay.
And
so did I, as a matter of fact, but
I have as well. I was 10.
Well, no, I started legally drinking.
Legally drinking in 1977. Okay.
And we used to drink Molson Golden Ale.
Sure.
That was my go-to in college, actually.
Molson, I drank plenty of Molson back in the day. Sure.
Yeah, and I don't remember my first craft beer, but I do remember that for like a year and a half, I got the Beer of the Month Club. Mm-hmm. So I got like immersion into craft beer, like crazy stuff that you just didn't know about. Right. I had no idea what was coming. Every month you'd get a 12-pack, 3 or 4 different beers from 3 or 4 different breweries. And it was just, every day was a great surprise.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Those Beer of the Month clubs were great back then.
Yeah.
I was in one of those and thought it was around here somewhere. It is right here.
You never opened it?
No. Perhaps the greatest bottle opener in the history of bottle openers. This thing is.
That's a good bottle opener.
Especially if you collect bottle caps. This thing removes bottle caps without a dent, without disturbing the edge.
Really? I had a couple of those. I actually had one that was a you pushed it down, you put it over the bottle, and you pushed it down and pulled it up, and it just pulled the cap. It basically lifted the. It did the opposite of when you cap a bottle.
Yeah, it pried the tines off. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. It came right straight up, so it was perfectly flat on top, and you could actually reuse it if you wanted to. Like another bottle, yeah. So yeah, I was collecting caps for a while, but that thing was great. But yeah, those I know that opener too. That does it as well. No dent, no nothing on it. It's perfect. So, yeah, that's great. Yeah. You know what? I mean, everybody has their beers that they went to back in the day. I drank plenty of Molson Golden back in the day. Jenny Cream too.
I mean, it goes back to the point where in 1977, my mom used to call me a beer snob because I did drink Molson Golden Ale. My dad was a Schaefer in returnable bottles man.
Uh-huh.
And for a 17-year-old kid to be drinking Molson Golden Ale in 1977, a year before Coors Light even existed.
Mm-hmm. This is true.
Is a little nuts.
John, you got a little.
I took care of it. I saw it. I felt it too, as a matter of fact. Anyway, Yeah, no, absolutely. And Schaefer actually, ironically, is one of my favorite old-time beer jingles. So,
Yes.
Oh, yes.
that was great. My beer is Schaefer the dry beer.
That was the one beer to have when you're having
more than one.
When you're Schaefer's the one beer would have when you're having more than one.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
So, and the other one, Lowenbrow, is always good too. I used to love the Lowenbrow.
My brother was a big Lowenbrow guy.
There you go. Lions Brew.
Yes.
Anyway, do you remember the first craft brewery you ever visited?
It would have been Ramstein.
There you go.
Makes sense.
Because Ramstein is only about 6 miles from my house.
Right.
Actually, I take that back. The first one would have been a brew pub.
Okay.
And that would have been the brew pub that was in Suffern that Neil Acer was the brewer, who's now the owner of Defiant.
Mountain Valley.
Mm-hmm. And because I used to meet a homebrew club up there.
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah, they had the homebrew club meeting up there.
Until the bar got busted for selling X. And closed.
And closed right out.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Well, that worked. It worked out for Neil. But
yes, it worked out for Neil very well.
Very
go. Well. And then we started a great, very long friendship going back to 1999.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he opened.
I started homebrewing.
And he opened about 6 years later. He opened 05.
Yeah.
So, but cool. What are your? Before we get into, I want to talk a lot about Boaks, and there's a few other things to talk about too. But before we do that, what are and this will lead into it actually. But what are some of your favorite styles to drink?
So I would call myself a Belgian British guy.
Okay.
So I like Belgian doubles, triples, quads. I like barley wines, imperial stouts, porters, and English milds.
Sure.
So
English milds is a great. It's a great style. I mean, it's such an underdone style too, and I love them.
Right. It's a perfect beer because it has a lot of flavor, but it doesn't have a lot of alcohol. So if you want to hang out, because I have a huge barbecue setup at my house. I mean, I actually own a gas grill, 2 gas-powered smokers, a stick-burning smoker, and 2 Weber kettle grills.
That's nice.
And Dave and I are coming over when?
I also make my own pastrami and I make my own bacon. And
again, Dave and I are coming over when?
Yeah, I don't think I've got plans on Saturday. So
pretty open, actually. In any event, yeah, that's good. I kind of concur with you. I mean, I'm a fan of. There's really not any styles that I dislike, but obviously ones that I like more than others. Belgians are at the top of the list, British and German styles too. Those 3 styles are at the top for me.
I mean, I just love beers that have a lot of flavor to them. No, I would rather drink a high alcohol beer slowly than
crush a 3.5% beer, one can every 10 minutes.
Correct.
Right. Absolutely.
I drink it in a cognac glass, hang out with a cigar, just
absolutely
chill.
Absolutely. I'm with you 100% on that. It's really the only way to do it, unless you're, well, I mean, there are different times for different things, but it depends on the situation, of course, but I like that situation the best. That's my preference.
It's funny because people would always ask me, what's your favorite beer? And I tell them, I says, you have to put me in a time, a place, a position. What am I doing? What's the weather? What's going on? Because I can't tell you what the beer I want to drink is unless I know what's going on.
Sure.
Because if it's 90 degrees and I'm at Giant Stadium, I'm not drinking Monster Mash.
Sure. Well,
or if really, look, we can rephrase that. If I'm at Giant Stadium, I'm not drinking Monster Mash.
Right.
Because it's just too big.
Unless somebody drove you to Giant Stadium and you're tailgating after the game is over.
Yeah.
And maybe they won and you're having a cigar too. Yeah.
Now, for those people who don't know what Monster Mash is.
Yeah, why don't you explain it, and then we'll get into talking about Boaks.
So Monster Mash was one of Boaks' flagship brands. It was a 10% 100 IBU Russian Imperial Stout, where the way I explain it to people is you're sitting at the bar, you have one, He said, "Oh, that was really good. I'll have another. Oh, that was really good. Let me have a third." And then you go, "Oh, I got to go to the bathroom," and you can't figure out how you got to the floor.
Mm-hmm. So it's accurate.
It's very accurate.
Because you just had 6 beers.
Or you actually make it to the bathroom, but you can't figure out which of the 3 doors you chose correctly.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Or you come out of the stall and wonder why there's a bunch of women in the men's room.
Rule of thumb, though.
I got a little story on that. I was at the Giants game yesterday, and my buddy goes in, and he comes out, looks up at the sign, goes back in. I'm like, okay, what was that all about? He says, there are no urinals in the men's room. I thought I was in the wrong bathroom. So they must have taken over a ladies' room.
For a men's bathroom.
For a men's bathroom.
Gotcha.
But he literally had to, because he went in, walked through, no urinals, came all the way back out, looked up, and go, okay, it says men's. Okay.
So he came out just to verify which bathroom he was in.
Yeah, he wanted to make sure. It's like, you really don't want to get caught by the ladies in the ladies' room. That's a little.
That is a terrifying feeling.
It is a very terrifying feeling. Although I've been to many, more concerts than sporting events, but there's been plenty of ladies in the men's room. That's okay.
Yeah.
That's
a different story. That's their option.
Right. Exactly.
We get arrested for doing it the other way.
Absolutely. It doesn't work the other way. It does not work the other way. So.
Or hit a lot.
Yes.
And speaking about Monster Mash, Dave, refresh everybody's memory. What was the number 1 beer on my top 3s for beers no longer produced? Favorite beers no longer produced?
Was it?
Could you recall?
I think it was
Coors Light.
I think it was from Boaks Brewing.
It's from Boaks Brewing, right? Yeah.
It may have been it began with an M.
It was a 10%
Imperial Stout.
Right, exactly.
I think it was Monster Mash.
I think it was Monster Mash. Yeah, exactly.
I thought it was Blunderbore.
Well, I mean,
Blunderbore
goes without saying, and as does Wooden Beanie, even though that's.
Well, when John mentioned that, I believe that Blunderbore, was it Brian Alt that brought up Blunderbore?
Someone brought up Blunderbore, yeah. Brian brought up. Blunderbore was one of Brian's because we asked him to write in his top 3s, and Blunderbore was on his list.
And most people don't know the story behind the name of Blunderbore.
I'm well aware of it.
Well, then tell it.
Why don't you tell it, and that'll lead us into talking about Boaks.
Okay, so Blunderbore was basically Wooden Beanie Monster Mash. So it was Blunderbore was Monster Mash aged with Jack Daniel's barrels and Madagascar vanilla beans. And the reason for the name of Blunderbore is that is the name of the giant in Jack and the Beanstalk.
And
Jack Daniel's vanilla beans.
So you've got basically Jack Daniel's barrels, beans, Madagascar vanilla beans, giant, monster. Okay, it all kind of ties together.
It all ties together. That was a perfect name. And Brian verified he said it. Blunderbore was his.
Well, thank you, Brian.
Anyway, all right. So let's talk. When did you start brewing? I mean, I know the story obviously, but other people that are listening do not. So
I started home brewing in 1999 with a $25 Mr. Beer kit from Linens and Things that I had my kids buy me for Father's Day. We were walking through buying stuff for my kids. And I told my wife, that'd make a good Father's Day present. If she only knew how expensive that would be, she would have never bought it.
What was to come, right? Exactly.
Yes.
That would have never happened. She would have bought you a hand towel instead.
Yes. two hands. She would have splurged 2 hand towels.
It's amazing how many breweries actually own their origin to Mr. Beer.
Sure, absolutely.
I actually still have that container.
That kit? That's awesome.
Yes.
That's great.
So I started homebrewing in 99. I won several awards. Monster actually won Best in Show at the New Jersey State Fair in what would have been 2006. And we actually, the prize for winning Best in Show at New Jersey State Fair is having your beer brewed at Crow's Brew Pub in Sparta.
Sure.
Right.
So I kind of stalled off because I'm like, I was literally about to go commercial. The paperwork was in. I was setting everything up. And I'm like, I really don't want to release my recipe to some other brewery. So finally, I agreed to do it. We actually brewed it Halloween of the end of 2000,
Mm-hmm.
They released it in January of 2007.
Right.
And it was just, it was a well-attended event. I got everybody to attend. I literally packed crows, which is not hard, but still I had like 45 people at Crow's Brew Pub, which I think is the maximum that they're allowed.
I was going to say that will definitely pack crows. That's
right. I got Tony Forder to come up.
Beautiful.
And he wrote a really nice article, which is really cool. So Ale Street News was very supportive of homebrewing and of me with Boaks Beer. In the end of 2007, I was fully licensed. I contracted with Greg Zaccardi at High Point Brewery, Ramstein Beer, to brew my beers. And I was off and running. I sold my first keg to George Gray of Andy's Corner Bar in Bogota.
Sure.
And I started with 2 beers. I started with Monster Mash and 2 Blind Monks.
Which is a Belgian double.
Yes, a 7% Belgian double.
Very tasty beer. Absolutely.
It's got a little bit of flavor.
Yeah, a little bit.
A little bit of flavor.
A little smidge.
But drier than most Belgian doubles, so it's not as sweet as
Belgian doubles. And you also made a double Belgian wit too.
I made a beer called Double BW, which stands for Brian's Belgian Wild Wheat, which is a 4.2% Belgian wheat beer with lemongrass.
Nice.
I took that beer.
The lemongrass really came through on that too. That was a great beer.
Yeah, a very light, very refreshing beer.
Yep.
And to quote unquote spice it up a little bit, I aged that beer with just enough chipotle peppers where when you drink it, you would taste the chipotle peppers, you taste them go down your throat just mildly, and then they'd be gone. There'd be no residual effect.
Right.
And then you could have another sip. And versus the pepper beers today, which are like, okay, I had 1 sip. I guess I'm not drinking anything else other than like an imperial pumpkin, or otherwise I'm not going to get any flavor.
You're not going to taste anything. Yeah, exactly.
Right. I'm not going to taste. I have to go to like an imperial pumpkin or a quadruple IPA or a monster barley wine.
Something that's going to have flavor to cut through it. Exactly.
Still, the moral of the story is most of Boaks beers were not gateway beers.
No.
They were not for the beginners.
There were no Pilsners or session pale ales.
Nope. You had to have been in it for a little bit to appreciate the full flavors.
Correct.
Exactly.
Otherwise, it'd scare off the newcomer.
Right.
Correct. And 2 beers were made by correction.
Okay.
So Abbey Brown, my brown ale, was actually the first incarnation of 2 Blind Monks. But it ended up the flavor profile and color profile between scaling up from regular homebrew to commercial.
Right.
It ended up being more of a Belgian brown than a Belgian double. So I basically renamed it, and now I had a new beer, and I worked with Greg Zaccardi, and we reformulated the 2 Blind Monks recipe to make it what it was and what it stayed forever.
Sure. That's awesome. Whatchamacallit? And then you, and then of course, along.
Then the next beer also came from an issue.
Yeah.
So Wooden Beanie came from a problem I had to figure out how to resolve. So we made a batch of Abbey Brown, and it fermented. It stopped fermenting. We kegged it, and then it started fermenting again. It's a bummer.
Yeah.
So it went out to market, and people were saying the keg's all foam. I'm like, okay, I'll take them all back. Just no questions. I'll take them all back. I'll figure it out. And I sat on them for a while, and I tried to burp them, which is pretty hard to do with like 30 kegs.
Just a bit.
I mean, 1 keg you can burp it. 30 kegs is a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, it's
so what I did, luckily we didn't bottle it, so that was good.
You have some explosions on your hands.
Yes,
that would have been interesting.
Yes, but so I decided I was going to order a couple of Jack Daniel's barrels and do an experiment. So I started aging at Jack Daniel's barrels and Madagascar vanilla beans. This is like very early in the barrel aging process.
Sure, yeah.
And I went through a couple of different names, and Wooden Beanie is the one that stuck.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Very nice.
That was such a good beer.
Yeah, there were very, very few people using barrels in New Jersey at that time.
Yeah,
yeah,
this is true. It was a happy accident, as they say.
Mm-hmm. It's basically Abbey Brown and Wooden Beanie were both made kind of by accident.
Mm-hmm. Abbey Brown was made by accident, and then
I was like, we had another accident with Abbey. Abbey Brown's just a klutz.
So you're the Bob Ross of Jersey brewers.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. Well, there you have it. So what were some of the early days like for Boaks?
What were some of the early years like?
Early years like once you're I mean,
because I was a contract brewer, the one thing I didn't have was I didn't have a tasting room.
Right.
Now, back in the day, you couldn't sell beer by the glass. You couldn't sell kegs out the door.
Back in the day, that didn't matter really. So
yeah,
right. So it didn't really matter. But I had nowhere for somebody to come in and taste and buy. So I did festivals. I did like every festival available
certainly did.
In the 9 years that I was around, I did approximately 100 festivals.
Wow.
And
not to mention the in-bar events.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
Yeah, there were plenty of those too.
Yeah, probably another couple hundred right there.
Correct. It was just...
And most of them were in Little Falls.
I did as many as I could. Yes. Considering it's only a couple miles from my house, it's like, hey, you want to have an event? It's a small event. No, we've got 2 kegs. No problem. I'll come down and visit and hang out.
Right.
Or our last event, where I think I did 10 beers or something like that.
We did 10 beers.
Yeah.
That was the last event for you.
Yes, that was the last event. It was 2 weeks after I officially closed, but you had already bought the beer, so it really didn't matter.
It didn't matter, right? Yeah, exactly.
It didn't matter. It's like just because you served them after I closed doesn't matter. But that was fun.
Yeah, that was a good night. It was a sloppy night, but it was a good night.
Yes. People came from far and wide.
Oh yeah. This is it. Want some Boaks? This is the time to get it.
This is your shot. And then when I closed, I had to figure out where I was going to keep 200 cases of beer between bottle and draft.
Sure.
So I'm down to 1/6 of Monster Mash.
1/6 of Monster Mash. So that has to be at minimum
14.
Yeah,
it's a 14. It's a 2014.
It's a 2014. I got you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So as mentioned, John and I are open on Saturday.
Saturday, we're. But yeah, no, it's the fact that you had to close, obviously, or you decided to close. Not that you had to close, but you decided to close is sad in of itself. But the time, the beer over the years was amazing. It really was. Kudos to you, and thank you for
thank you.
Absolutely.
So it's a different environment now than it was then.
It is. It's apples and oranges, really, back in to what it was back in the day to now. Even what it was to back when you closed to now is different. But forget about going back 5 or so years before that.
Right. I mean, when I opened, there were a dozen breweries in Jersey.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, yeah, there was I think there were, but right when the law was passed in September 2012. I believe there was only 9 or 10 because a heavyweight closed and what was the other one? But I think there was only it might have been 11, but I think it was 9 or 10. Right around there. It was a lot less than that, obviously, because heavyweight closed. But
we have a few more now.
And then now it's over 130 now. So
it's nuts.
It's crazy. It really is.
It's nuts. It's an ADD beer world.
It is.
It is.
It absolutely is. It's definitely a world of what have you done for me lately, or what's next.
Right, and that's one of the reasons I'm out. It's like I'm not coming up with a recipe every week. It's not what I was in for.
Right. That wasn't your game. That wasn't what you were there for. So. No. And now that excuse me. Now that you have closed, it's been 5 years, but a little over. But you have been staying in the game. Correct?
I'm still playing with beer.
Still playing with
in
beer.
multiple ways.
And why don't you explain that to us?
Yeah, your name tag down there might give one hint.
Right, exactly.
Might
just a little bit. So
yeah.
How about
so I run a peer learning forum for brewery owners, for breweries in New Jersey and for breweries nationally, called the Brewers Roundtable. And what we do is I get brewery owners together that are of like mind, that want to share information to help each other out.
Right.
And basically, I moderate a conversation of what they want to talk about. In other words, I don't start the conversation. I have enough knowledge from being in the business, usually longer than most of them, of how to move the conversation along. But we talk about any subject that involves owning, operating, or running their brewery. We don't talk about the laws. We don't talk about the guild or the association or anything like that. It's all about what equipment to use, where do you get your cans from, how do you get rid of your grain, what point of sale system do you use, how do you track emails, how do you get people in, what events are working for you, like any subject that you can think of in reference to owning, operating, or running a brewery is what we talk about. And they all share around either the New Jersey group or the national group, which I do via Zoom meetings.
That's really great.
And that's always been the great thing about the industry, is how willing brewers, even if they're close to each other and could be direct competition, as John's coined the term many times, co-opetition. That they work together, and they all want to see each other do well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I have a strong group of breweries that are in the, we'll call it kind of southwest Jersey area, like outside Philly.
Mm-hmm.
That whole area. So you got like Lower Forge and 3-3s and all those breweries that are in that vicinity, that they all get together and share and chat and help each other out. And I mean, we used to meet every month, or every month. Every month, every other month, I forget. It's been so long. And then when COVID hit, we flipped over to Zoom, and we literally met every week on Zoom for a long time. And I'm not talking about like a month or two. I'm talking about for like 8 months. We met every single week.
Well, there's two reasons for that. You've got a whole new different climate that everyone has to deal with, so that's helping. And also, everyone was lonely.
Yeah. Yes. It was it's the only time we could hang out and drink together and not get scolded.
Because John and I both quasi remember one drinking night over Zoom that went to maybe 3 a.m. I
remember the beginning of it. I'm not
sure.
I
remember the first
end of it hazy.
I remember the first 4 hours of it, and yes, the end of it was about as hazy as in any IPA.
But they were fun. They were fun. And I mean, to a point. I mean, this podcast was born out of the pandemic to a certain degree. It was talked about before, but it was started, kind of smack dab in the middle of it. So.
We're kind of maybe again smack dab in the middle of it.
Yeah. So we've been doing a year's worth of shows smack dab in the middle of it.
Hopefully next year we won't still be smack dab in the middle of it.
Cross fingers.
But we did have our first live in-person Brewers Roundtable. So that was cool to get together.
Well, just recently, or
about a month or so ago. Yeah, it was in. It would have been July, because we were going to have another one in August, but it just didn't work out. I got too busy. I was going on vacation and stuff. But we'll probably have another live one.
Why don't you?
Yeah,
don't worry about family. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I booked the trip. It was for my entire family. We went to Long Beach Island for a week.
I saw some of the pictures. It was kind of
cool. You should have had it on Long Beach Island.
There you go. Could have had the meeting at
Ship Bottom.
Ship Bottom. Yeah.
Yep, I was there a couple of times, and I went to Manafurkin a couple of times also.
Sure, absolutely.
So you got to spread the love.
Absolutely. And Pinelands isn't that far away from there either. I mean, just quick right down.
It's not. It's just I could only excuse myself for so long.
That to drive there and then have to get back and spend immeasurable time.
See, the excuse is Manafirkins is right next to Blackie's Clam Shack.
Mm-hmm.
If you've ever heard of Blackie's Clam Shack.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So it's like I got to go get clams. Well, I'm only a mile from Manafirkin. Okay, I'll stop at Manafirkin.
And there was a line at Blackie's.
Bring a couple back and
right. There you go. There you go. There you have it. It's all in the way you address it. That's all.
Correct. You just have to build the loop correctly.
Right.
So it all makes sense.
Absolutely. So that's great that you're doing that. Helping those guys out, and hey, you know what? It's all it's learning, it's camaraderie, it's knowledge based sharing, obviously, and all that stuff. It really works well,
and it's good. I've been a teacher in one way or another in my other life, in my insurance world. I've taught agents, I've trained them. I run a program called the Missing Piece of Financial Planning, Property and Casualty for wealth advisors and trust and estate lawyers. So I'm used to networking and teaching people and working with them and having conversations. So to the way I thought about it is to lose that 9 years of experience that I can share with other people.
Sure.
When I can go to somebody's brewery and like go have a beer, and then they go, "Look, you helped me out. Here's a beer."
Absolutely.
So I have a vested interest in it.
Absolutely, a big vested interest. Absolutely.
We'll work for beer.
And technically, you're still brewing, albeit at home for yourself.
Well, yes, but when you think about it, I am brewing on what would be considered a grand homebrew scale.
Sure.
Because I built a new brewing system. I had worked with a friend of mine, and I took bed frames, which is basically angle iron.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, had them. I measured it out, and we cut it down and welded it out, and it's got it's a 3-burner setup for half barrel kegs with a 4th spot non-fired. I mean, I could always put a burner in there.
Right.
All the burners are basically 170,000 BTU turkey burners, and they're all hard hosed together. So they run off of one propane tank.
That's great.
With individual valves. I run a 3-vessel system. I run a mash tun and 2 hot liquor tanks, which convert over to 2 boil kettles.
Nice.
Right.
So, and I bought a Riptide pump, very high-end homebrew pump, to be able to sanitarily transfer everything back and forth and cool it. And I have, which I've had for a long time, I have a 31-gallon stainless steel conical fermenter in an insulated cold box. So it's a little bit more than a regular homebrew system.
It's not your typical. You're brewing a gallon of it on the stovetop. You're not. You're beyond that.
Yeah, you're not working in the kitchen.
No. I've been banned from the kitchen a long time. That's why I have the smokers outside.
I was going to say, so you had to build your own kitchen outside, is what you had to do.
Pretty much.
Gotta love it. Well, that's awesome. And I'm glad all of that's continuing for you. And I'm glad you're still, in the biz, so to speak, and of course brewing the beer too. And whenever you have, like I said, whenever you are gonna make some pastrami or bacon or smoke a brisket or cook even something on the barbecue
or blunder boar
and tap that or share some of the English mild or tap that 7-year-old keg of Monster Mash, Dave and I will be by.
Yeah, well,
and you know what? I'll be honest with you. Dave and I will come by even if you're not doing any of that stuff. So.
No, that last keg of Monster will be tapped late next fall.
Okay.
Or late this fall. I mean.
Late this fall, really? Okay.
Yeah. Well. Probably because I'll want something to drink over the winter.
There you go.
That's fair enough.
Oh,
fair
God.
enough.
If you want something to drink over the winter, don't invite John and I.
Yeah, if you wanted to drink throughout the winter, probably not a good idea if we come over. So,
Well, I mean,
or more than for 5 minutes.
what was really bad is I have a 2-tap refrigerator, and I had Monster on tap, and then I went and got a keg of Ramstein's Winter Wheat. So it's like I have Monster on one tap and Winter Wheat on the other. I'm like, this is really dangerous.
That's not a bad thing.
That's not a bad 2 taps. I got
John, we're 45 minutes in the show, and I have not opened my second beer.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, why don't we open our second beers?
Yeah.
Why don't we let Brian open his second beer last?
He's got it last.
Okay.
Yeah, because
my third beer is the one that you're waiting for. So.
Right. All right. Then open it first. Then
you go first because he's got it in hand already.
Yeah, you got it in hand then.
So we're gonna go with a
threes.
Three threes.
Okay. And we're gonna go with
Scooby Double Do.
Scooby Double Do.
Yep.
Scooby Double Do.
Scooby Double Do.
Yep. They're 9.3% Belgian double.
Very nice.
What they need to do is lace that with hemp and call it Shaggy.
That would be interesting.
I got this at the last homebrew meeting, at the last Brewers Roundtable meeting, and I've been just kind of waiting to drink it. So
could do I was going to say a black and tan. You've heard of a black and tan? You could do a black and black with Swisher and call it Shaggy.
There you go.
There you go. Very nice.
Doesn't that look nice?
That looks
a beautiful pour.
It's very pretty. Very nice.
Better than John's.
Oh,
yeah.
It wasn't me. It was the beer.
So John, No. You already admitted that you over-agitated it by not opening the can, by the way.
Exactly.
So now redeem yourself with
I'm
your beer.
I'm going to redeem myself with my beer. We were speaking about brown ales. I'm going to drink a bear from Treehouse. One of my favorite brown ales. Throw that up there. And I'm going to open it all the way.
Now, Bear, is that a coffee brown?
No, they make two. They make regular bear, and then they make coffee bear.
That's right. There's coffee bear.
Yeah. So there you go. I'm just taking my time, not over-agitating it, getting a nice pour on it.
He's finally learning how to pour beer. You'd figure after all this time he'd learn.
Yeah, he used to be a bar manager. You'd think he'd know.
Yeah.
You think I know what
he'd know. But actually, he was a bar manager.
Yeah, he paid other people to pour the beers.
Correct, because he didnn't know how.
There's someone downstairs that knows how to pour the beer.
Well, she's working, actually. She's not
downstairs. Okay.
She's not downstairs.
See, he's goofing off. She's working.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Nice life.
Gotta love it. Well, she's just covering. That's all. So.
Did you just take your compulsory picture?
The compulsory picture. There's the pour right there. In fact,
it's not compulsory.
Let me turn the glass around. There you go. Idle hands.
There we go.
Boston. There you go.
So since you're doing a treehouse, I'm going to do a treehouse.
You are. What treehouse are you going to do? As if I didn't know already.
Thrice. No, three. I really wish it said thrice because that's one of my favorite words. I don't think it's used enough.
Thrice is not used enough.
And we really need to get that word, with more life. I've got some more still in the bottom of it. And it is a DIPA. And it's another New York Giants glass here.
There you go.
But this is the 2007 Super Bowl. Probably the only good thing that happened to me that year.
2007 Super Bowl glass.
Yep. The other one was Super Bowl 46.
Which is a 2011 season Super Bowl. So.
And see, poured properly.
There you go. Well, mine's poured properly. See, I told you.
Cheers,
cheers, gentlemen.
So cheers. There you go.
Redemption for Johnny.
There you go. I'm redeemed.
That's entirely different than a coconut goes.
I absolutely love. This is one of my favorite brown ales, and I got to tell you, enjoying this to the point where I'm actually glad. Sad summer's winding down, but glad tomorrow is September 1st. So,
starting to get fall into those fall brews.
Starting to get into fall and those fall brews, and that's going to be the subject of a lot of the blogs that we're going to be putting up over the next few weeks. We have a comment. Let's see who it's from. It is from Gene Lynch. Thrice. There we go.
That would make more sense if it was his third comment of the day. But
it would. Being his first comment of the day. Not so
He's
much.
just trying to leapfrog in.
He wanted to jump right straight in. Just get into the conversation right.
Both feet. Cannonball.
There you go. But yeah, well, now you know what? Speaking of the fact that tomorrow is, or actually in about 4 hours and 25 minutes, it's September 1st. That means football season's coming up, right?
Football season. Who watches football?
It already started for me as I was at the game already.
You were at the game.
Yes.
Well, I unfortunately did let go several years back of my season tickets, so I only go to the occasional game. But had I still had them, I would have seen you on Sunday. So, but I did not. So there you go. But
we have a small tailgate.
No, very, very, very small tailgate.
I've heard the contrary is true.
Well, we're gonna get to Brian's tailgating prowess in just a couple of minutes. Let's talk about the Giants first. And I'm actually going to, seeing as Dave mentioned before that this should be the Get On With It podcast. Well, you know what? We're gonna use the brand for the background anyway. How's that?
Yes, there we go.
Okay, there we go.
You got to throw that up there. All right. But in any event, that's a
lot of green.
It's a lot of green. It is. So the boys won't be upset. In any event, so we're all
just crushed hop plants everywhere.
Everywhere. So we're wearing Giants jerseys tonight. So I'm sure everybody can guess. If you're just listening to the audio podcast, if you haven't heard it, you haven't guessed it already, we're wearing Giants jerseys. I'm wearing a Lawrence Taylor. Dave, Mr. Samurai, is wearing a Mark Bavaro, and Mr. Boak is wearing a Carl Banks. And pretty much the same jersey that we're all wearing.
And these players were contemporary to each other.
Absolutely.
Even though Banks came in a little later.
Banks and
the tail end.
Banks and Bavaro came in at the same time, pretty much.
Yeah, that's right. That's correct.
But I have a true personal reason for wearing a Banks jersey.
Yes, you do.
Go on.
Why don't you tell us why? As he takes a sip of his 3 threes.
Well, I had to smooth it out.
Smooth it out. There you go.
Yeah. So as I said, we have a small tailgate. We have
they have a small tailgate.
Yeah. Last week or yesterday, hardly anybody showed up. We only had 25.
Hardly anybody.
Hardly anybody showed up. Okay. In season, we have say 50 to 75. We can have upwards of 80 or 100. Mm-hmm. We've been on the Rachel Ray show. Mm-hmm. We've been on a Tostitos commercial. Mm-hmm. Or no, Taco Bell commercial. We were on a Taco Bell commercial. We've been on the Giants pregame show, the My 9 pregame show. Odell Beckham Jr.'s mom used to come to our tailgate. 2 of our founding members, their fathers used to be voice of the Giants. And Carl Banks launched his line of tailgating food at our tailgate.
That's great.
Here we go.
That's great. And I can.
But it's a small.
It's a small tailgate.
It's a small.
Intimate.
Yes, intimate.
Small intimate tailgate. Yes.
Yeah, I actually have a famous '58 chef's smock from that event.
Nice. Very good. I can concur, and I can confirm that the tailgate is on the grander scale. I have attended several of them, and they are very, very well thought out, played out, planned out, and attended. And so there you go.
2 of our guys are professional chefs. Mm-hmm. One owns a catering company. The other one cooks for 2 restaurants out in the Hamptons. It's basically a one-upmanship on food. Hot dogs and hamburgers are thrown off the grill. The grill that we use in regular season is like 6 feet by 3 feet.
Mm-hmm.
Also small and intimate.
Yes, also small and intimate. It takes like 4 bags of charcoal, half a gallon of lighter fluid, and flame on.
There you go. Gotta love it. And you get there at 8 a.m. to get that going. Just to
we used to get there earlier, but they only let us in 5 hours before the game starts.
Only 5.
Only 5. We used to do 7. And the reason we do 7 is they started charging it 6 hours before. Mm-hmm. So if you get in 7 hours before in the olden days, where they charged you at the gate, mm-hmm. you got in for free.
Sure.
And you've got to get in early enough to take over about 30 parking spots.
Yeah, if you're going to take over that many spots, you got to get in early. You have to get in early, that's for sure.
Yeah, and we have I am the keeper of the flags, and we have a flagpole that we attach to the light post that has about 7 flags on it.
Mm-hmm.
So you're also under the radar.
Yeah, you can't find us.
No,
never
Can't
find
us.
The first one I
except
ever,
if you're like standing in the stadium looking out and you can see the flags.
the first one I ever attended, I was like, how am I going to find Brian? I got out of the car and looked up. I'm like, never mind.
or if you're in the space station and just look for the flames from the
This
grill.
is true too. You can see it from up in the international space.
We don't mess around.
Not at all. Not at all.
I mean, I have certain things like I'll start the season. I'll bring like a bag of 100 clams. Do clams on the grill with melted butter.
Mm-hmm.
For Thanksgiving, I will do a deep fried turkey at the stadium. Mm-hmm. We'll do like a 20-pound bird. I will do ribs one time. I'll do a pulled pork barbecue. Sure. The last game of the year, I make a pot of stew. I make it in an 8-gallon turkey frying pot, and I start with 15 pounds of meat, 10 pounds of potatoes, couple pounds of carrots, couple pounds of onions, 2 whole stalks of celery, 2 cloves of garlic, like the bulbs. 2 heads of bulbs. Yeah, 2 bulbs.
Bulbs.
2 bulbs of garlic. And
2 cloves
of 2 cloves would eat nothing.
No, you couldn't even taste that.
Yeah. Half a gallon of beer, 8 ounces of hot sauce, half a gallon of stewed tomatoes.
A lot.
It's just the recipe is actually out of the John Madden Ultimate Tailgating Cookbook.
That's great.
So it's a perfect recipe.
Right. It's
ever do a whole pig?
Somebody brought a whole pig once, a piglet. Yep. Yeah, somebody brought a
whole
piglet.
Yeah, a suckling pig. Yeah, somebody brought a suckling pig, and so we have one of our members is Filipino, so he's like, "I'm bringing a pig." I'm like, "Good for me."
All right,
okay.
That'll work.
Was there a fight? Was there a fight over the snout?
Don't remember, but it went well. It went very well.
So let me ask you: you're tailgating, right? Get in there super early. I mean, we used to do this back in the day. We went crazy too. I mean, this is like way back. We'd get there super early, almost the night before, so to speak, but not really. And then all day up until, you figure just like a 1:00 game. And then, we'd come out after the game, and traffic or not, we sat in that lot for several hours again and tailgated after, because it was a whole day, right? It was the entire day experience. It was
Correct.
Everything about it. It's not like, all right, the game's over, pack up, let's go home, boom, hit the road, sit in traffic for 20 hours, No, it was about almost as much as it was before the game, it was about the tailgate post-game too. So listening to the post-game on the show, on the radio while you're sitting there and, throwing a football around, having a few more beers, something else to eat, just relaxing. And
we have a TV, so we watch the second game.
Sure, absolutely.
While the traffic, I could sit and hang out with my friends, have something else to eat, watch the game while all the traffic goes away. When all the traffic goes away, then I can get my car and just drive home.
Just get out and just go. Just drive right home.
Right.
Absolutely. Makes perfect sense.
Yeah, it's our standard operating procedure.
We did that once. I remember it was probably it was 80, 81, 82, somewhere in the early 80s. We took a Winnebago over to the stadium. It was in December. It was a late December game. It might have even been the week between Christmas and New Year's. Okay. And Giants were playing Oakland. So Oakland was good. Giants not so much at the time. And then whatchamacallit. So by halftime, it was a 1:00 game, and which was odd because they were playing Oakland, so you figured it would be a later game, right? But it was a 1:00 game, and we go into the stadium. By halftime, the Giants were losing 24-0, and they were not winning this game. That game was done, right? Left the stadium, went back up to the Winnebago, fired up the TV in the Winnebago, and the heater and everything else, fired up the grill again, and so forth and so on. We sat there, watched the second half of the game in the Winnebago, and watched the second game in the Winnebago, and then left. So it was fun times. All good.
Yeah, I mean the tailgate is key. I mean, it's just like I said, if you can get that many people together, like I said, we get 50 to 75 for a tailgate, and it's like the same people come back week after week, or they're the same people come. It's like, okay, I can make the third game and the fifth game because they don't have tickets, but they can get tickets. So we have like the regular hardcores that are there at every game.
Right.
And then we have the people that make a certain amount of games a year. Like we actually have 2 girls that live in Miami but they make like 3 games a year.
Nice.
Gotcha.
That's some travel.
It is a little bit of travel, just a bit.
Yeah. Hey,
Just a bit.
one of our guys lives in the Hamptons.
Okay.
He comes to every game.
He's the chef. Or
He's
one
the
of
chef.
chefs.
Yeah.
That's great. So let's go back a little bit. I mean, hopefully the Giants are going to start building. Start playing first. Then we can win.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
They play first.
Playing will be good. Yeah.
Then they can win, and then they can go from there. Hopefully they'll get back to that. But something actually, I'm gonna. I'll tell you later. But something occurred to me. But I'll tell you what it is later. But in any event, whatchamacallit, we'll talk about maybe some predictions and what we feel about the team as it is right now. But going back to the heyday, unless you're going back all the way to the 50s, all the way back to the 50s and early 60s, the best time for, the Giants was, between the early 80s and the early 90s, right? That was a beautiful 10 years, You couldn't, as a Giants fan, you couldn't want for anything more than that. And so I'm going to ask, just based on nostalgia, how, take yourself back in your mind, how were you feeling, during that time as a Giants fan, to be around for, witnessing all of that. And, these 3 players, Taylor and Bavaro and Banks, and for that matter, Carson, Sims, and everybody else, it
was great. I grew up with my family watching the Giants.
Sure. As did I.
Yeah, so I actually picked my wife because her father owned Giants tickets, so that's how I got my Giants tickets.
Smart man.
See, you got to know how to date properly.
Absolutely.
So
that's hysterical. That's great.
But I normally go with my son, and who is now full grown, and so I have grandchildren. So it's just a family experience of going to the games and just having a lot of fun and thinking back to then and then trying to place it forward to now when the Giants get all their gears together to be a cohesive team is just, I'm looking forward to that.
Absolutely. And I as am I. Really quick before you say anything, Gene Lynch just commented and he said, did I tune in for the wrong podcast? Sports? Beer?
Yeah,
what?
Gene, it's Wednesday. It's the Get On With It, and we've got some guest hosts. No. I'm a little different than you guys because I didn't grow up as a young kid as a Giants fan because my upbringing was more around college football. My grandfather went to Oklahoma. I was raised a Sooner fan.
Hardcore,
I was raised a Sooner fan. So, but when I got into football, of course, like most young kids, you root for the winners, and at the time that was the Steelers. Steelers were winning everything, but then that team, because remember back in the day, you stayed with the same team for the whole time.
Yeah,
and I remember comedians saying, now it's not like that. Now you're basically rooting for laundry, right? Because that's who you're, it's who you're dedicated to.
Yeah, back in the day, there was no free agency, and teams stayed together forever. Now it's the entire Giants team today, 4 years from now, can be completely different than it is today.
Absolutely. But back then, that team stayed together for so long. But other than maybe Stalwart, they pretty much all retired at the same time.
Early 80s, they all got out of there.
Yeah,
sure.
They were all out. So I had to find another team because I didn't recognize them. And it was hard to get a Steelers game in Jersey. So I chose one of the local teams, and I chose the Giants. I started rooting for the Giants just in time for the Pisarcik fumble. Herm Edwards and all that manner.
I will let you know that I was at that game.
Yeah, you've let me know that many times every time I bring this up. But so I entered in. So I was not a a bandwagon fan that came in when they started winning.
Right.
I came in during the Pisarcik era, and then they started winning. So it was really nice to finally, get back to.
4 or 5 years later, but yeah,
to seeing the team I'm rooting for start winning games.
Absolutely. That's absolutely. I've been a fan since I can remember. And growing up,
you had no choice.
I had no choice. Yeah. I really had no choice. But I watched plenty of college football too, because that's the thing to do. That's what you do on Saturdays, right?
Yep.
Friday nights.
I'm an SEC guy.
Right. Friday night.
I'm an SEC guy. I went to
SEC,
South Carolina Gamecocks.
Friday nights high school, Saturdays college, and Sundays NFL, right? So, but yeah,
and Monday.
And Monday, right? And I've been watching the Giants since they were horrible. Since they were just.
And anybody who starts watching them now can say they've been watching the Giants.
Pretty much. I got to tell you, I haven't seen a team play this consistently poorly as they have in the last 3 years, in the last 3 seasons, as they have in the 70s.
Do you think they're going to play better this season?
I certainly hope so.
So what's your prediction for the season?
7-11. 7-10.
I was going to say there's only 17 games,
17
but they'll find a way to win that. They'll find a way to lose that.
7-10. 7-10.
I was going to go 6-11.
No,
Brian,
I mean, they were 5-11 last year, so 7-10 is my.
I'm an optimist. I am hoping for 1 over 500.
So you're hoping for 9-8.
Hey,
9-8 will win the NFC.
9-8 will win. Hey, you know what? 7-10 might win the NFC. Okay, to be quite honest with you, the NFC. The Giants are so lucky that they're in the NFC East that they almost did win the division last year at 5-11.
Right.
Which we call it.
So, it's pretty bad when you can win with that bad of a record.
Yeah. I mean, every team in the NFC East was below 500 last year.
I like to lowball the prediction. That way, I'm only pleasantly surprised. And if they do worse, then just like I told John earlier today, I haven't paid a hell of a lot of attention to any of my sports teams because let's face it, I'm a Giants, Mets, and Rangers fan. It's been about 3 years since I paid any attention, and it's only out of frustration and the why bother.
Well, I mean, this decade just started, but last decade the Giants actually won a Super Bowl, so it's not that far off.
This is true.
I mean, technically, it's 10 seasons ago now because it was the 2011 season when they won the Super Bowl.
Now, Brian can back me up on this, and the Brian that's been commenting, and the Gene as well. One of the best parts about when the Giants do poorly for the football season is watching John on Facebook.
Brian Boak can probably.
This Brian and the Brian who's commenting.
There might be some strange words that might be in like French or something like that.
There are conglomerate words that are made up of other words that may be French.
Exactly.
And
very creative on Sundays. What can I say?
There's lots of emojis.
Yes.
The emojis are my friend. What can I say?
And I think maybe this year I may have to restart what we did about 3 years ago, where we would do the John Fladung Giants rant over under. And Brad, I'm not sure we were friends on Facebook back then, but so you'll see it. We usually block John from seeing this because we don't want him to sway what he does. And I set up an over and under for about 3 categories. And I change it up every week, so we may have to do that again this year just to make the season entertaining.
A little entertaining. Well,
yes.
I got to be honest with you. My rants on Sunday, obviously, I mean, as famous as they become, I have people, seriously, if I'm not commenting or bitching by the end of the first quarter, I have people messaging me on Facebook. Are you in the hospital? Are you all right? What's going on?
We actually have. And there was one time he wasn't saying anything, and I think you were on vacation or something. Yeah,
we were away for the week.
Yeah, you were away.
Yeah, see, I'm truly a one sport person. I am football, and other than that, I have too many other things going on. Like,
right. Well, I'm a huge football and baseball fan both, and I'm also a fan of hockey and basketball, but not as much as football. Football and baseball up here, hockey and basketball are not down here, but they're a little.
Well, football's up here, baseball's here. If you go by his rants, because he will rant when the Mets are playing.
But you know what? Here's the thing.
He gets tiring because they play almost every day.
Games. All right, this year's 17 games for the football season. It's 162 Met games. I can't do this every day.
And they're like watching grass grow.
Right.
I can't watch baseball. It's like.
So.
No, I can go to a game because it's a live sporting event. That's a completely different story. You want to invite me to a game? I'm in. It's fun.
Right.
BSing, watching a game.
Sure.
But watch it on TV. I'd rather ride my bike 52 miles, which is what I do.
Which is what you do. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I actually at one point to get myself to sit through a whole baseball game, I started scoring them.
There you go.
Okay, at least you got something to do.
You got something to do.
When I go to any game I go to, I actually do. Pardon me. I actually do score the game. I actually do buy the program, and I will sit there and, unless it's just a horrible blowout and just, ridiculous, I'll sit there the whole game. And if I'm going to sit in my seat and watch most of the game, I'll sit there and score most of the game.
That I can see during Shea, when they were at Shea. Now they're City Field, and I have done this where we've gone to a game and just wandered the stadium.
Absolutely.
You don't sit there and score the game. You wander the stadium drinking. And
I got to put this one background back on for a second. This would be what happens at a game. Right.
Yes. Right there.
Drinking Premier because it's available at Citi Field. But yeah, exactly. In any event, I love watching. I love watching baseball, but football probably edges out baseball just a smidge, and it's my favorite time of year. It's my favorite, sport to watch and rant about and everything else. But
perhaps not your favorite stadium.
No. We had a long discussion. Let me ask you, Brian, really quick.
Very long discussion.
I'll ask you. We went back and forth for many hours today on this one Facebook group we're in.
Okay.
And how do you feel about MetLife Stadium as compared to Giant Stadium?
Oh, completely sucks.
Absolutely horrible.
It's horrible.
There it is.
Thank you.
It's like the worst stadium that existed.
It's
the worst way to get into the stadium.
Yep.
When we were at Giant Stadium, I was able to park in a particular spot.
Yep.
I took one escalator to the top of the space, and I was at my seat.
And you're at your seat.
Now,
done.
Now, where I parked, of course, we picked up. With that many people at you tailgate, you have to pick a spot in the beginning. So before the stadium was built, and before I knew where I was going to sit, we picked a parking spot to tailgate in. Right. And with 75 people, you just can't go, oh, we're going to move here, we're going to move there, we're going to move.
No, it's you where you are. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, it's like, okay, we picked this, and I was critical on picking it, and I just said, we're going to pick here because I come in from this direction, I can come in and park, I can go out, I know the way.
Sure.
Unfortunately, when they built the stadium, I realized that my seat was literally as far as you could go from the entrance that I was going in.
Right,
literally, it was like I could go left or right. It's literally the same amount of units.
Right. And here's my thing about the entrances, though.
But you got to go up and back and up and over.
But that was the thing. Even if you walked in the wrong, there were 4 ways into Giant Stadium, and no matter which one you walked into, whether you're in the upper deck, the mezzanine, or the lower tier, you went to your escalator or you walked up the spiral, whatever. But you got up to that level and you just walked around it until you got to your seats and you went up. Now it's escalator, over, walk, another flight of stairs, come back, take another escalator up, an elevator, sign a couple papers, walk over, go to the bathroom, forget it. It's literally an hour trip to your seat when you walk in the stadium.
Yes, it's nuts.
And the seats are smaller too.
I'm a thin guy, so I didn't notice that.
Yeah, seats are smaller.
It wouldn't be that John's larger.
No.
No.
I measure them.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah. No, it's horrible.
You can't use your butt as a measurement instrument. It changes.
You know what I mean? That's true. But it depends. But in any event, it's ridiculous now. So in any event, I do miss the days back in the '80s of Giant Stadium. I've missed Giant Stadium, period. But I miss the days back in the '80s of Giant Stadium, obviously, for what the team was with these 3 guys and all the others as well. And it's this year is 35 years. This is the 35th season since they won their first Super Bowl. So
okay, that's cool.
Yeah, really cool. So
it wasn't called Super Bowl 35 years ago.
Yeah, it was.
Was it?
Sure.
Yeah.
Super Bowl 21 they won.
Oh yeah. Never mind.
They won Super Bowl 21, Super Bowl 25, Super Bowl 42, and Super Bowl 46.
I've got my math.
And we will not talk about Super Bowl 35 no matter what you say.
Ever.
And that didn't exist. That
Ravens.
Super Bowl did not exist. In any event. So, all right. On that note, why don't we? Well, let me ask you this. We're talking about old-time Giants, and everything else. Brian, I'll ask you first. What were your? This is an impromptu top 3, if you will. It
doesn't count.
It doesn't count.
You're gonna ask me questions now. I've had 2 beers. You're gonna ask me questions.
Absolutely.
Right,
no, we're going to make you drink your 3rd beer and ask you another question.
What are your? Yeah. Well, that's absolutely true too. What are your 3-time, all-time top
John's
3.
only had 2 and he can't speak now.
I can even speak now. Top 3 all-time Giants players.
So first is Carl Banks for a lot of different reasons. One, he was killer.
Mm-hmm.
2, he launches a lot of tailgate food at my tailgate. So
Sure.
it's like, you can't, I mean,
You can't.
I don't think anybody
you're contractually
can
bound
that.
to him.
Yeah,
Number one.
contractually bound to Carl. Harry Carson.
Good one. Very good.
Awesome.
And Lawrence Taylor.
There you go.
All
Because
linebackers.
LT is LT. It's like just.
And you know something? It's one thing I've always said about the Giants, and it's one of the reasons why we get Bears fans, because it's probably the only two fan bases, and maybe Pittsburgh back in the day, the only fan bases that were excited when the defense took the field.
Giants and Steelers.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And Chicago.
And Chicago, sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. Right?
Well, I've said this before. We've talked about this. It's no secret that there's only one team in all of professional sports that I actually hate, and of course you both know who that is. So
that would be the boys.
That would be the Cowboys, right? Exactly. And it's not even for the fans or even most of the players. It's primarily right now because of the owner, but that's besides the point.
I have a big problem because my granddaughter, because of her dad, is a Dallas Cowboys fan.
My condolences.
I'm sorry.
It's like really bad. It's like I'm sorry. My granddaughter.
There was a video that's going around on Facebook and Instagram right now. That's a daughter. The daughter comes over her father's house with her daughter, and I guess his son-in-law, the father's son-in-law, is an Eagles fan, right? He's a Giants fan. And she walks up to him, and the baby is wearing an Eagles hat. The father's on the phone, walks up, grabs the hat, just throws it. But,
same thing I would do.
Right, exactly. But yeah, there's no other teams I hate. But I have a second NFC team, if you will.
Something to do with cheese.
Something to do with cheese, and that would be the Green Bay Packers.
But that's a classic team. It's like,
of course,
you can't hate Green Bay.
You can't. Yeah, no, I like Green Bay. And then my AFC team.
Unless you're a Bears fan.
Unless you're a Bears fan, right? Yeah.
And my sister.
I think the Vikings fans hate
Chicago. Yeah,
Vikings probably hate them more. Yeah.
Vikings fans hate Green Bay more than Bears fans.
This is true.
Absolutely. But then my AFC teams are the Steelers and the Broncos. Those are my AFC teams. But
so you're top three, John.
So my top three. Okay. My number three. Or I'll go in the same order Brian did. My number one's Lawrence Taylor. I'm wearing a shirt. He's hands down. I mean, the greatest linebacker of all time.
Greatest outside.
Well,
linebacker.
Yeah, okay. Greatest outside linebacker of all time, fine.
Because you got to make the argument that Bucket's on the inside.
Sure. No, of course. I mean, yeah. I mean, there's plenty of great. I mean, it's not like he's here and everybody else is here, but he revolutionized the position.
He made offenses have to change.
It's ridiculous. Yeah, absolutely. He did.
So did Buckets.
And he made whatchamacallit? Oh, geez. Really, John? It's that time of night. Whatchamacallit?
Sounds like John needs a beer.
We're waiting.
I'm still drinking, yeah. He made quarterbacks crazy. Let's put it that way. Leave it at that. There you go. Anyway, also then, of course, my number two would be Mark Bavaro. He was a machine. He really was. And it's a shame that he didn't play longer, have a longer career. But
it's because of the way he played.
It was because of the way he played, yeah, exactly. And I'll be honest with you, as much as I love, if we were doing up to 5 or 10, I mean, there'd be plenty of great names in there. And Harry and Carl would both be in there. And I'd even go as far as saying Fran Tarkenton or Wyatt Tittle or Sam Huff or Rosie Brown or whatever. But my number three's got to be Eli. It's got to be Eli. He brought us another 2 Super Bowls. And as much as there's plenty of Giants fans that bitch about him and can't stand him, I love the man. And he
2 Super Bowls, longevity. Iron Man?
Absolutely.
I mean Iron Man is really
he holds so many Giants records, and he's in the top 10 in so many NFL categories and stats too. How can anybody think that he's not going to go in the Hall of Fame? Is beyond me.
Right.
It's crazy.
No, I agree with that, but he drove me crazy. I would lose my mind every time he'd do something stupid and walk off that field with that little lost boy look in his face.
You know what? He had his moments, and I will give you that. And there were plenty of times where I'd be bitching about him online too. Not. Don't get me wrong about that.
Someone said that the perfect NFC East team ever would have Romo playing during as the quarterback for the regular season, and then Eli in the postseason.
Yeah, you know what? I used to say this religiously. I used to say during the regular season,
on your knees with your hands in front of you.
Absolutely. Every day, every Sunday, every game of the entire regular season, I will take Peyton over Eli during the regular season.
Yep.
Once you get to the postseason, bye Peyton, give me Eli.
Yep. I really think that what happened is I just think he was like Shaggy, and that the equipment manager's job every game was to try to find Eli's stash ahead of the game. And some game he was successful, some games he wasn't.
Sure.
There was sometimes that look on his face was like, are those people dilated?
Dilated at all? Yeah, no. But and then one, I got to say one more that, you know, it's not in the top 3 by any means. It would be in the top 10. But Larry Zonka was definitely edging in. I mean, he was only on the Giants for a couple of years, and they sucked when he was on there. But I loved the man. He was a really cool guy and a really good player. And I actually met him back in the 70s. Was on the Giants. So he was a nice guy. But anyway, Samurai, yours?
Well, number 1 right here, Bavaro. I love the way the man played the game.
Sure.
As you said, he was a machine. He was an animal. He was a beast.
Yep.
And John talked about this before with you, but I was at one time at work. We had a Spirit Day where you wore your favorite. You know, it was actually for football. You wore your team's jersey.
So did you wear Jack Daniels or something like that? Your favorite Spirit?
No, that's actually not my favorite Spirit. That's more Blanton's.
Okay.
But no offense to Jack Daniels drinkers, but.
Sure.
You know, have the balls to call yourself a bourbon. At any rate, so I wore my Bavaro jersey. Well, one of the HR people was from the West Coast, and he was wearing not only a 49ers jersey, he was wearing a Ronnie Lott jersey.
There you go.
And he takes one look at my jersey, goes, "Well, you know, you have to carry me all over the building now on your back." Because of that one play where Bavaro dragged the whole 49ers defense.
Including Ronnie Lott,
draped around his neck. Now, we're not talking a typical DB. You know, small in stature. Ronnie Lott was one of the hardest hitters who have ever played the game. And he hit Bavaro and stuck around his neck, and Bavaro took him about 18 yards downfield along with the rest of the 49ers defense. It's a play that is just still to this day amazing to me.
And he did this time and time and time again. So it's not a wonder why his knees were shit, why he had to retire after 10 years. So
right, yeah.
Yeah.
So my number 2, you know, and I have to overlook, you know, the off-field issues, but John's wearing his jersey. Lawrence Taylor, simply one of the greatest defensive forces to have ever played the game. Just completely disrupt any defensive scheme that was out there. You know, so say what you will about LT, he was one of the most feared players ever to play.
I mean, we're just talking football. We're not talking afterlife. We're not talking after game. We're just talking football.
Right.
Yeah, not off field.
This is football. We're not talking about anything else.
Number 3, John knows that I was really tortured over this one because there's some people that you just want to throw in there like a McConkey just because of the way he played the game with complete reckless abandon. I'm not sure he had 2 brain cells to put together half the time. But he played the game. You know, you also want to mention Landetta because he was a weapon. When you got a defense the way the Giants had, having a kicker that could pin the other team back by around the 5 almost every time, that's a friggin' weapon. You don't have a lot of punters that can do things along those lines.
You don't.
But when it really comes down to it, as far as the most beloved players, and Brian, you mentioned Harry Carson was he was the heart and soul of that team.
He was.
You know, LT was the weapon.
Yes.
But the heart and soul was Harry Carson.
Sure.
And he was the brain.
And we talked about this before. Harry Carson being on the field allowed LT not to be double teamed. And then when Harry Carson retired, it was Carl Banks that allowed LT not to be double teamed. So and anytime they did double team either of those guys, the other ones, you know, took care of things. So and you mentioned a few others too. I mean, there were plenty other. I mean, Gary Reasons back in the 80s too. He was he was.
And then after things started to slide a little bit, you know, you still had some bright spots in the Giants defense, like Pepper Johnson.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah.
And loved to watch the way he played that game.
And then there was another good defensive end that the Giants had. That his first season was Taylor's last season. And what's his name? Michael something, right?
Yeah.
He starts with an S, I think.
wound up breaking the record for sacks only because one of his best friends on the planet allowed him to sack him.
And well, I was at that game too. But
and if you think about it, if you look at
it's Michael Strahan we're talking about, folks.
Yeah.
Hold on a second.
You haven't caught on.
So ready?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If you look at the bottle,
righty.
Look, it's got that gap.
Do you see any homage to the Giants?
Michael Strahan's face, or Michael Strahan's teeth are on the monster's face. There you go.
Yes.
There
you go.
Gotta love it.
That was, I didn't ask for that, but the artist that created it for me knew me.
And it worked out.
And he just did it.
You gotta love it. Gotta love it. So why don't you, are you ready to open that? You can open it, by the way, by all means.
Are you ready?
Go for it. Go for it. I'm still working on my brown ale, but I want you to open that Monster Mash.
What they got? If you remember when Thiesen's leg was completely destroyed.
Yeah.
They asked
a
lot of people.
I'm not sure what age this is. This is somewhere between an 09 and 12.
So it could be in the 10-year range ish. Could be a little older. Could be a little younger.
Could be a little older. Could be a little bit younger. I'm not 100% sure.
As long as we don't see beer shoot up in front of your face right now, we're good to go.
Yeah.
So, John, to that play, have you ever heard what Theismann said about that?
Where
they
don't
said,
know.
"Do you blame Lawrence Taylor for the end of your career?" He said, "No, I blame Harry Carson's." Because if Harry had made the tackle at the beginning, like he should have, and done his job, LT would have not destroyed my leg.
Right. Exactly. And I got to tell you something. I was watching.
Look at that.
Oh,
how old is that beer?
Look at that. Look at that pour. Look at that.
And it's still got a nice head on it. That's a beautiful thing.
That is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful beer. That is beautiful.
And how is that tasting to you?
So, Dave, what time should I pick you up on Saturday?
This is killer. Now, I will let you know that I'm hoarding one bottle. One bottle from the first
not a
batch.
hoard. Not a hoard,
no.
Brian.
Well, hold it. No, that's hoarding. That's hoarding.
Oh.
One bottle.
Whoring. You're hoarding.
Yeah. No. Hoard with a D usually implies more than one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay. I am
saving. You're saving.
Salvaging. Sitting on. Waiting.
Right.
One bottle. The last bottle of the original 2007 batch.
Wow.
Yeah.
I have one bottle left. The last bottle that I had about a year and a half ago, I had two bottles left. I went down to visit my mom, who is now like 87 or something years old, and she loves Monster Mash.
She won't tell you.
It's a ballpark number.
It's a ballpark number. I got you.
It's a ballpark number, but she'd shoot me, but she won't be viewing this, so I don't think. But if she does, whatever.
You'll make it up for her by opening that bottle.
I'm like 700 miles away. She can't hit me over the head.
She's a certain amount of years older than you.
Yeah, she's a certain amount of years older than me.
There you go.
But I brought the second to last bottle of original Monster Mash to share with my mom.
Nice.
I think that was the appropriate person to share it with.
Absolutely. Definitely.
So, but
that's beautiful.
This is, considering this is, let's see, it's like I said, it's between a 9 and 12.
So it's between 9 and 12 years old.
Yeah.
Technically, yeah.
Yeah.
If you look at it that way, yeah.
Yeah, so it's between 9 and 12 years old, and it's just smooth, just killer. Just now, I had one year that didn't hold up, and I don't remember what year that was, but I had a couple of bottles from that year, and I realized that year didn't hold up, and which means basically somewhere along the line something was dirty in the packaging. But you got to figure that bottle was like close to 10 years old at that point. So it's like, okay, fine. It didn't last 10 years.
Yeah.
It's like, that's getting really freaking picky.
It's a little picky. Yes. A little picky.
That's a little picky. Considering that 2007 I had was amazing. Just flat out amazing, which shows two things. One, the quality of the beer, but the quality of production that Ramstein Brewery has.
Sure.
In making and packaging a beer that can last from 2007 until 2020, and
right
in a bottle,
sure,
and be like amazing.
Yeah, it's not even canned; it's in a bottle too. We're talking about,
yeah, and not even at the bottom
and
of the
then
ocean.
they corked and
the
caged bottle either. It's a
right.
capped bottle.
Yeah, it's just a capped bottle. It's not waxed. It's not nothing.
Right.
So.
Beautiful. On your note, really quick, Dave, the Theismann leg play when Taylor broke his leg. That night I was watching Monday Night Football. It was November '85. I was eating a cheesesteak. I had probably taken about 3 bites.
Philly guy?
What?
What are you, a Philly guy?
Jersey makes better cheesesteaks.
I was eating. I made the cheesesteak. I made it at home. I was eating a cheesesteak, and I probably took about 3 bites of it, and I just swallowed. Luckily, it was already swallowed and down when the play happened. And of course, if you recall the game, they showed it about 87 times in the span of about 5 minutes. Needless to say, I'd never finished that cheesesteak. So, but cheers to, you know what, I know he was on the Redskins, but cheers to Joe Theismann for taking that, and I know it ended his career, but...
Well, Joe Theismann, until he decided to change the pronunciation of his name to rhyme with Heisman.
Okay. On that note. And
on that note, should we get back to beer?
Why don't we get back to beer? And I think we can. I think there's a way we can tie these two things in together.
Well, why don't we first change the splash screen, the background?
Why don't we do that? Go back, you mean?
Yeah, so we can tell everybody, hey, guess what? We're back to beer.
We're back to beer.
There we go.
There we go.
Go beer.
All right. So why don't I think there's a way we can tie these two things together.
Well,
okay?
we have spoken about Brian's tailgates, his very small, intimate.
Yeah, and 80 people tailgates, right?
Yeah,
just a few friends.
A few of his closest friends.
So why don't we do tonight's top 3 list? Our actual.
This is the official
top 3 list. Now, Brian, as anybody that watches the show knows, and you've watched it before, so you know too.
Yes.
We do a top 3 list because for 2 reasons. One, a top 10 would take too long. And top 3, we each do our own top 3s. We pick the number 3 because we pay homage to 1933, the repeal of Prohibition. 33. There you go. So top 3.
Because when we first started the top 3, it was just the 2 of us, so it was 3 and 3.
It was 3 and 3, so it was.
So what happened in 1333?
I don't know. 1333.
We'll figure
that out one day. Exactly. So. Anyway, so tonight's top 3 list, tonight's official top 3 list is top 3 beers to drink at a tailgate. Top 3 beers to drink at a tailgate. And our guest of honor, Brian, why don't you? The
tailgate master.
The tailgate master. Why don't you kick it off?
Or is it Meister?
Meister. There you go.
Yeah. So, as a brewer myself, I know normally you guys pick individual breweries with individual beers.
Yep.
But with me being a brewer myself, I'm normally bringing my own beer to a tailgate.
Of course.
Okay.
And so we had no doubt that you were going to go in that direction. So.
It's a little bit more difficult for me to pick like somebody else's. So I'm going to go category versus brewery.
Sure.
Okay.
Have at it.
So,
you mean like style?
Style. Yeah. Category. Yeah. Category
style. Right.
Yep. Okay. So my first style to drink is the first beer I had today, which is the English mild. 3.2, 3.5%. Got good flavor. You're normally cooking your barbecuing, so it's got that little chocolatey profile.
Goes fantastic with a burger.
It goes with burger, steak, ribs, whatever.
Sure.
And it's low alcohol. You can drink a ton of them, and you're still okay. My second one would be a Hefeweizen.
Nice.
Okay.
Interesting.
Light, refreshing. That banana profile cleanses your palate. It's just very interesting. The third one, that goes into like too many different categories. We have several beer people at our tailgate, and they bring like large fishing coolers full of like assorted beers from like all over the place.
Sure.
Which is probably what I would do.
Right.
Right, which is what our guys do. What one of our chefs, one of our guys that has a catering company, he brings a cooler and he gets beers from like everywhere. So my third beer is really a sip of this, a sip of that, a sip of this, a sip of that. A little taste here, a little taste there. I'll take 2 ounces of that. I'll take 2 ounces of that.
And smorgasbord.
A smorgasbord of beer. Because if I'm going to be drinking one all day, I'll take that English mild all day long because I can drink it all day long and not worry about it. Okay. The Hefeweizen, clean, crisp, refreshing, just light and just good.
Sure.
And then the smorgasbord because, look, I'm having shrimp, I'm having clams, I'm having meat, I'm having fish, I'm having this, I'm having that. I need different beers to go along with it. So the smorgasbord of beer. So it may not fit your normal top three, but that's the way I look at it.
That works.
Perfectly acceptable.
Totally acceptable. All right. Beautiful. Samurai, why don't you have at it?
Well, I said to John, it's like, we've really got to stop picking top threes where I'm going to throw this beer out there.
Well, it's not nice to throw carton out of the boat.
Only if the can's empty. But then again, that's littering. Don't do that. At least it's not plastic.
Can't do that.
At least it's not plastic. But this beer appears on so many of my top three lists because I just love the beer, and I'm gonna. Let's face it.
It's a great beer.
4.3% with a ton of flavor to it.
Yeah.
Loving that. 4.2. Sorry. 4.2 with a lot of flavor to it. And I have taken this to many a tailgate, not just football, soccer. I've done soccer. I've done baseball. My kids' soccer games where you're not really supposed to be drinking on the sidelines, but we do. And I have turned a lot of people into aficionados of this beer.
There you go.
Boatman. And it's, and I've said it before, if you go on Untapped and you look at the top drinker of the beer, that would be this guy, because I just pound the hell out of these things. So there's that one. And it's John, John knows I tend to put things into categories as well to make it a little easier for myself.
So that would be your local craft.
That'd be my local, maybe Jersey craft. I don't know if it's domestic craft.
We'll call it local craft. How's that?
We'll call it local craft.
Yeah.
Then we'll go, and unfortunately, I've got to throw a macro in there because another beer, especially if I'm the one at the grill during a tailgate, if I'm cooking up, a beer I like to drink while I've got flames in my face is actually PBR. It's not craft. But it's something that during the summer I usually have, a 12-pack in the fridge. So
okay, I'm leaving the meeting. Bye.
Forgive me for that.
He's actually thought he was going to walk out the door.
So forgive me for that one, but it's something I will do. The third one. And it's funny you brought up Hefeweizen because Weihenstephaner Hefeweizen is one of my favorite beers. But for a tailgate, so you're using it as a palate cleanser, which I hadn't thought of. But to drink a Hefe with a lot of the foods that you get at a tailgate, I don't find that it matches well with. So I kind of shied away from Hefes for this. I was thinking maybe Vitus as one of the possibilities, but then it dawned on me, I want cans. I don't want bottles.
Sure.
Even though, back in the day, there's just something just really reassuring about having your hand around that neck.
Something nostalgic about having your holding the bottle.
I bring a stainless steel cup.
Right. But I was thinking going more cans. And one beer that I know, if we're going to go, now I'm going to go international, Pilsner Urquell.
Oh, yes.
Pilsner Urquell is just so crisp. It's so refreshing. Goes with everything and anything. It goes with shrimp. It goes with brats. It goes with burgers.
Can't go wrong.
It can wash anything down. Now, not to mention, back in the day, before the Iron Curtain came down, it was a better beer. Yep. They ripped out all of their wooden vessels and replaced it all with stainless steel, and in my opinion, ripped the soul out of that beer. Sure. But it's still a fantastic beer even after that. And and it does come in cans. So, yeah, I would definitely hoof that into a tailgate.
I hear you. There you go. That's awesome. All right, I guess it's on me, huh?
You're up.
You're the only one left.
I'm up. All right.
And you can't go Monster Mash wouldn't be any Blunderboard.
Monster Mash wouldn't be any Blunderboard.
No, because you'd last all of about half an hour at the tailgate.
20 minutes. Are you kidding me? The way I drink those. Anyway.
The way I drink it, I'd last 10 minutes.
Well, here's the thing, right? I'm not. I did it a little differently, and I'll explain why in a second. But I will concur with Dave is saying as far as like a macro, at a tailgate. It's kind of nostalgic. I mean, we've all drank macro beers before. I mean,
no.
Molson Gold. You mentioned Molson Golden at the top of the show.
Molson Gold is a macro beer.
Hold on. In 1977, it was not.
True.
Okay.
Granted.
Okay, so
I give you that.
Period.
But the only thing I was going to mention is that on that note, and you know what, I've had a PBR before, obviously, but on that note, if you're going in that route, and this is something we talked about before, this is on my list. This is just an extra kind of aside. If you're going on that route, if you're drinking like an adjunct light lager at a tailgate or whatever, the only one I would ever consider having at a tailgate, and obviously I've had it before, at this point in time, in any event, would be a Miller Lite, because the Miller, between Bud, Coors, and Miller at least has a little flavor to it.
It's more flavored water than just straight up water.
It's flavored water, but it's flavored nonetheless. But anyway, that aside, here's where
the canoe not so close to water, right?
Right. There you go. Good point. Here's my three. All right. Now, sure, you can tailgate at a baseball game, and I've tailgated many times at a baseball game, but baseball games that I go the most I've ever attended, the most in one season I've ever attended a baseball game was eight times in one season. And that was 1986 for the Mets. All right. I haven't come
good year
close
to be doing that.
Yeah. I think 4 times a year is the most I've ever gone to a baseball game. But I've gone to 12 football games in a year, between a couple of playoff games, the 2 preseason games, and the regular season, right? So, whatchamacallit? So
my normal is 10.
Right. So the bulk of that, well, I'm including playoffs,
right,
when the Giants.
Well, like I said, my normal is 10. I mean, if we go to playoffs, then it's
playoffs.
Right.
Playoffs. Seriously, when was the last time the Giants saw the playoffs?
All right, quick. Who was that? Go ahead. Come on. Who was it? Who said that? Playoffs? Who was that?
Oh, that was Herm.
There you go. Okay, just want to make sure.
The fumble.
Exactly. Anyway, so what I did was this. This is how I went about it. Football, except for maybe the first couple of games, it's still a little warm out, and it's still technically summer, depending on when those first 2 games occur in September.
Correct. Yep.
You haven't even gotten to your first beer, have you?
No, I haven't.
No,
first. I'll be quick.
He's getting there.
The bulk of the season. The bulk of the season. It's cooler out. The bulk of the season is in the fall. The bulk of the season is beer season, like we call it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So here are my beers. My macro, if you will, and it's not really macro. It's technically, according to the Brewers Association, it's a craft beer, according to the Brewers Association. But my macro would be, well, here's the thing. My first style would be an amber ale. Okay.
Yeah. Perfect.
Or an amber lager, if you will. Okay. Even better than an amber ale, an amber lager. And there's a lot of good amber lagers around. You mentioned Neil Acer before and Defiant. Muddy Creek is a great amber lager. But the amber lager that I've probably had the most at tailgates is Yuengling, like anybody else has had. So Yuengling would be the number 3 on my list. All right. Number 2 on my list, because of, again, where it falls into play as far as the season goes for football, any Oktoberfest. Any Märzen is perfect. And, it's going to be it's going to be great for pairing with any of the meats or anything else that's coming off of the grill.
Definitely a bratwurst.
Yeah, exactly. So and probably the Oktoberfest that I've had the most of at any tailgate would be Sam Adams.
Right.
And you mentioned Greg Zuccardi makes an incredible Oktoberfest. I love Greg's Oktoberfest.
Yeah, I'll be getting a keg this year.
It's a great beer, and I'll be over. But it's a great beer. But yeah, the one I've had the most is Sam Adams. So Sam Adams Oktoberfest would be my number 2, and my number 1. Let's go a little bit even deeper into the season, and I'm drinking a brown ale right now. Long Trail Harvest. Long Trail Harvest is a maple brown ale, and it's probably the brown ale that I drink the most of during this season of the year, and in the fall of the year, if you will. I go through a lot of Long Trail Harvest. That's my number 1 right there, and it's not really a big beer. It's not a small beer. It's not sessionable by any means, but it's not 10% either. And
anything sessionable, it just depends on what you call your session.
What you call sessionable, exactly, right, exactly.
Monster sessionable is just
it's your session 20 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. It depends on how long your session is what you got to look at, right? But yeah, so that would be mine. So number one,
is that under the lines of everywhere's walking distance as long as you have the time?
Correct.
Pretty much.
Okay.
But yeah, so number 3, Yuengling. Number 2, Sam Adams Oktoberfest, and Yuengling Lager, obviously. Number 2, Sam Adams Oktoberfest. Number 1, Long Trail Harvest. So there you go. Those are my 3. So
nice.
Awesome. On that note, I want to bring something else up really quick. I want to tie something else into this. Again, an unofficial top 3. Brian, what are your top 3 favorite tailgate foods?
Again, as I mentioned before,
I know I'm putting you on the spot because we didn't talk about this before.
No, it really doesn't matter when it's tailgating. So it's like
exactly.
It's like a
slam
dunk to me. It's like it's like asking me to talk about beer or to ask me. It's like it doesn't matter. So it depends on the season. So I have 3 major things I do during the season. So if it's early in the season, I'll bring a bag of 100 clams.
Okay.
Because it's warm. We literally throw them on the grill. Okay. They pop open.
Sure.
I take a stick of butter, I melt the butter down and bring some hot sauce in case you like hot sauce with your clams.
Dave, you like hot sauce with your clams? A little bit.
Just a little bit. Yeah. So I bring a bottle of Frank's. So I went on vacation. I bought a bag of 100 clams from Blackie's.
Blackie's, yeah.
And we just sucked them down between really 4 of us ate 100 clams.
Gotta love it.
Which is not that big.
It's not very I can eat 25 clams. It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, yeah. So
it depends. I mean, if you get like if you're getting little necks, or you're getting like big
no
chowder clams.
Little necks or middle necks.
Right.
Type deal. So I'll do clams. The other thing I like to do is I like to do a pulled pork barbecue because nobody does it. So because to do real pulled pork barbecue, it's like a 14 hours.
Oh, sure. You got to start the night before you get there. Yeah. Absolutely.
Correct. You start the night before, and basically what I do is I get it cooked all the way through. I throw it in a cooler.
Right.
Because it'll sit in a cooler for a couple hours and marinate, and I'll come in and I'll just warm up the sauce, and I've got these like tongs that just like rip it apart.
The Wolverine claws, right?
Right.
Yeah, Wolverine claws. Yeah. And I will just warm up some barbecue sauce, not a lot, just a touch on there. And my favorite packaged sauce to use is Stubbs.
Okay.
Stubbs is like a really good barbecue sauce. I don't use a lot because I like the flavor of the meat versus drowning
so you cook the meat enough. I mean, you need a little sauce in there, but
just a little sauce to add some. Yeah, so it's.
I mean, do you do the Carolina way where there's some a little bit of vinegar with red pepper in it?
No, I don't use red pepper because some people are affected by heat.
Okay.
And I just put a little bit of Stubbs barbecue sauce on it, just very simple.
So, I mean, as it's cooking, because I've heard.
Oh, I put a rub on it. I have a specific rub. I have a custom-made rub.
Proprietary rub. There you go.
Yes,
I know somebody else has a proprietary rub too.
Yeah, I have a proprietary rub myself.
Yeah. We're not talking that subject.
No.
Oh, no. We're talking. Actually, no. We're talking about the same thing. A spice rub. Mine is actually. Way to go there, Brian. Man, see what happens when you get a couple beers in this guy. You go all blue.
He did finish up with a 10% stout. So.
Yes.
I haven't finished
a 10-year-old 10% stout. So.
Well, my second beer was a 9.3% double.
True.
My spice rubs actually was developed mostly for wings, but it's been used on so many things.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah, I do smoke
wings.
I
just heard it at Dr. Seuss, didn't I?
Develop it for wings, but used on so many things. There you go. And
I would eat it with a fox. I would eat it in a box.
Would you eat it with some lox?
Oh God, no! I don't like lox. I don't think it would work on lox.
I'm going to stop with the rhyming right there. All right. So, and you're number one.
You're going to stop with the rhyming, and that's good timing.
Or you're number 3, or number 1, whatever order you were going. But yeah, clams, pulled pork.
I make the killer stew that I spoke about earlier. Cool. It's like it's literally from the John Madden's Ultimate Tailgating Cookbook. It's killer. Everybody loves it. The first time I made it, it was actually a true game stew because I got different game animals from everybody.
You hit a deer with your car?
No. But I have friends that hunt. So I had.
Well, he has friends that hit deer with their cars.
They hunt them with
and
cars.
they say they hunt. They just hunt with cars.
Right, exactly.
Hey,
it doesn't matter the
I didn't
method
ask what
of
you hunted with.
Exactly.
So the first time I made it with like elk and buffalo and deer and all this other stuff, and a lot of people wouldn't eat it. Bunch of weenies.
That's crazy.
So I said, okay, fine. I'll make it with beef going forward.
Because a cow is so much different than
a cow is so much different than a deer or elk or something.
On that note, a fire company I used to be on years ago. Every Thursday night we had a drill, and there was one person every Thursday night was one person in charge of drill food. After we finished drilling, we had food, right? And this one guy made sloppy joes one night. Right, and he made them, and everybody went back for seconds and thirds, and everybody was loving them. Just couldn't get enough of these sloppy joes to the point where it was gone.
Sloppy joes,
right? Yeah, with venison sloppy joes. And when afterwards, he didn't say a word to anyone.
Sloppy Bambies.
Everybody was eating them, and afterwards he says, "By the way, you guys just all ate deer." He says, "I put venison in this," and half of the guys were like, "Oh my God, that was disgusting." Really, it wasn't a minute ago while you were licking your fingers
and having thirds,
right?
It really wasn't that bad when you were having thirds, was it? So couldn't have been all that bad.
Right,
so
exactly.
It's definitely a perception issue.
Of course, absolutely.
Yes.
So, Samurai.
I'm going to steal your thunder, considering it's right in your description of who you are on the Lager Room Guys site.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I forget how you worded it, but bratwurst.
Mm-hmm.
Brats. I do beer boiled ones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, you have.
I knew I should have got first.
Yeah, you should have gone first. You've got to, if your recipe for brats doesn't start with opening at least 2 cans of beer, 3, because you've got to drink one yourself.
You need one to drink, Dave.
You're just wrong. Yeah, you're just wrong. So you've got to, the brats, the onions.
Yeah.
You got to throw it in there, and then when
that's my lazy man tailgate.
Yeah, but you throw them in there. You throw them in there. You let them boil until they start to split. Then and only then do they go on the flame.
Sure.
So brats is up there. I mentioned the other one because I've got that the spice rub she devil that I make.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The she standing for sweet, hot, and earthy, and it's developed to taste that way. And wings, she devil wings.
Nice.
And I've got a bunch of different varieties on there depending on what heat people can handle. And it's the first batch I made was made with Chipotle. It's gone all the way up to Reaper. For those who are very, very brave and don't mind a lot of lotion for the undercarriage.
Right.
There is a version of it that is made with cayenne, which I have never ever made because most of the people I eat with don't. They can handle at least Chipotle.
They're not weedies.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Third. Number 3, because that's actually going 1, 2, 3. I'm started at the top.
Right, yeah.
Right.
3 is really tough because I've had so many different things at tailgates that I'm not sure I can pick one thing out. But there's nothing better than having that giant goddamn sub there.
Gotcha.
Give me an Italian sub at a tailgate.
Because I can eat a slice when I'm hungry.
You got to eat something. Yeah. There's going to be some left over, so you're hungry.
It's always sitting there.
Just grab it.
You don't have to wait for it to be cooked.
Yeah.
It's like
you don't have to worry about a handful of pretzels or potato chips or something. Boom, you just go.
Yeah, let me just go grab that, toss that in my face. Make sure there's that shaker of that oil and vinegar with herbs in it.
Right.
Let me drown it in that stuff. Put that in my face because of course with everything else I eat, I need something to loosen that up to get it out eventually.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
need some slippery sauce.
A little slippery sauce. There you go.
And vinegar is great for that.
There you go.
So, and that's actually best after the game. You don't want to put that. You don't want to put that in your stomach before the game.
No. You got no. You need to do that at a post tailgate. So when you by the time you get home, you're good to go.
Yeah, because you're not going to sit
literally
for 3 hours.
You're
good to go.
Damn good to go.
GTG.
So, exactly. All right. So mine are everybody, we've all had so many different foods at tailgates, and all of them are great. I mean, sandwiches, even ribs, London broil, flank steak. We used to do, years ago, at least once a season, we used to bring, I'm not kidding when I say this, we used to bring an entire shell of beef for shell steaks, all right, and lobster tails. And we used to cut the steaks right there, put them right on the grill with the tails and have surf and turf once a season at least during our tailgates. But and even burgers and dogs, you know.
Did you eat it with your pinky out?
Of course, absolutely, always. But and my thumb out too, so I was kind of like that. But there you go. But anyway, my top 3.
He's in Hawaii.
Exactly.
Yeah.
My top 3. My tamale. Yeah. My top 3 have to be these, and I'll go in reverse. Number 3, Italian sausage. I can eat Italian sausage all day, every tailgate, every single season, and during baseball too. And tailgates, Italian sausage. In fact,
sweet or hot?
Yeah. Both.
Yes.
Both.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, the only correct answer, Brian.
But a mix,
yes.
not one or the other.
No, at the same time. Yeah.
Yes.
Sweet and hot in the same bun, right? And even in Met games in baseball, whatever we're eating in a tailgate outside, and even if it is sausage, inside, the one thing that I'll get inside Citi Field at every single game is a sausage and pepper sandwich.
Yes.
I was going to ask you that. Just straight up grilled in sausage and peppers. Or any way you want to do it.
Any way you want to do it, whether it's just grilled with some peppers and onions on top of it on a bun, or if we put a red sauce in it and eat it, whatever. Sausage, Italian sausage. That's my number 3. All right. My number 2, I'm going to back off a little bit. Chili.
Chili's killer.
Chili
and
it can be killer, especially for the people sitting behind you in the game.
Depending on what kind of chili you're making and what you're doing. Yeah, exactly.
Well, yes, because there's some people that claim that if you put beans in chili, you've not made chili.
Right. This is true.
But I put beans in my chili.
So
I make about 4 or 5 different chilies. All right. I'll make an all meat version, but that one I only make to literally have it barbecues, not tailgates, barbecues for hot dog chili. And I'll just put meat chili.
That's different, yeah.
But the chili sauce more than anything.
Yeah,
pretty much. Yeah.
You make a chili sauce for hot dogs.
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But yeah, no, I put beans in my chili. But I make a green chili too, which is fantastic actually.
Actually, I got a shout out here.
Mm-hmm.
There's like more of one of the best white chilies I've ever had.
Mm-hmm.
Ulcho.
Yes, yeah, he does make a good one.
It's fantastic white chili.
He does. My green chili is it's pork based. A little bit of chicken in it, but it's mainly pork. It's really it's a tasty chili. But anyway, so chili, and I'll even couple that with soup. I'll have a good cup of soup at that's my number 1. It's just coupled with the chili.
Well, that's really damn good in winter, right?
Yeah, you get colder games. I'll eat 3 or 4 bowls of soup while I'm tailgating. Absolutely.
Pickles.
That's why I make that stew.
Yeah, the stew falls into that. Yeah. I love. I can eat stew all day. But my number 1, and obviously
I stole it from him.
Mr. Samurai stole my thunder. As my bio on the website says, once thought to be the most prolific bratwurst griller in the Northeast United States, Johnny now grills many different foods. So there you go.
Once thought. Yeah.
And if you look at my Instagram too, Jersey Johnny TLR, it says all the way at the bottom, it says grills a mean bratwurst. So my number 1 by far is brats. I'll eat brats all the time, and that's kind of where all of those beers that I mentioned before are my top 3 beers.
Go with brat.
Go with brats.
Yeah,
I
would agree.
And as much as brat is a German food, I like a great Polish mustard on a German brat.
Absolutely.
Oh, you gotta have a good solid brown mustard.
Yep. And the Polish mustards have a bite to them that I adore.
Yeah.
And I'll give you this too. Sunday night, I was at Asbury Fest Hall and had a couple beers and had dinner, and I will give you 3 guesses to what I had for dinner.
Bratwurst.
Bratwurst, yeah. There you go. So.
I would have never guessed.
Imagine that.
And you know what? They've got 3 different mustards there. All of them are very good.
And I had all 3 of them on my plate with the sauerkraut and the potato salad. Had them all on my plate. So there you go. But anyway, so yeah, there's my list. There you go. Well, awesome. I mean, this was
cool.
This was fun. This was we got a lot of talking about your Boaks and all the beer Boaks used to brew, and you used to brew, obviously.
But again, I got to remind you of one of your questions, John.
What's that?
That he asks this question a lot.
I do.
Every now and then he forgets it.
Mm-hmm.
What's on the horizon for Brian Boak? Are you going to get back into commercial brewing?
No.
Good. Answer. Direct, succinct, like
fast,
that.
Quick.
Yes.
He's aware.
I've already lost 1 shirt. I don't need to lose another.
Especially
I had a lot of fun. I had a lot of education.
Carl's Bank jersey, right?
Yes.
There you go.
So, will you
Next
get
question.
involved in the brewing industry again, outside
technically
the Brewers
is.
Roundtable, like with a, helping or assisting other breweries in a more direct sense?
If a brewery asked me to assist them, yes.
There you go.
Simple. Just no. It's I'm not going to stick my nose where it's not wanted.
Right.
If somebody asked me for assistance, I wouldn't turn it down.
Now, as far as brewing, you've got your staples.
Yes.
You even said, as Boaks Brewing, you had your catalog. You weren't interested in going outside of that. However, as a home brewer, are you experimenting?
Well, I have several beers that I had kind of lined up that were never made. So, like a beer that I made as a home brewer was Brown Magic, which is the English mild. Right. So I made that first because it was like timed right for the season. It was like for the summer. The next beer I'm probably going to try is a Belgian triple, which is something that I never came out with. I wanted to. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to be brewing either, I don't think I can brew this weekend. I just don't think I have enough time to, even though it's a holiday weekend coming up. I'm not sure if I can squeeze it in. But
those holiday weekends always tend to be full, don't they?
Yeah, they
you get an extra day and you have less time.
Yeah, I have a lot less time, right? So
especially with Johnny and I coming up on Saturday.
Yeah, especially after you take a week off and then everybody wants to come over your house and drink the beer that you say you had on a TV show. And,
TV?
I'm on TV, right?
Close enough. Why not?
Sort of. There's cameras.
Hey, you know what? We do have, this is also on a YouTube channel, and there is YouTube TV. So we technically could be on TV.
I'm on TV. I'm on YouTube TV.
Okay. So, hi, YouTubers.
We've had a guy on a regular basis to some degree from London, from England. Yeah. Owner of a brewery over Lord's Brewing over in London. He watches almost religiously on our YouTube channel.
Well, that's cool. That's cool. But, yeah. So I do want to make a Belgian triple. Mm-hmm. And there's a variety of other beers. Like there's a beer called Jan's Porter that I had actually gotten to the point of gotten a TTB approval on a label, but I never actually came out and commercially produced the beer. So that'll be another beer I'll make. And
nice.
And then go from there. But you'll never see me make a lager. You'll never see me make an IPA or a New England IPA or anything like that because those are just not my styles.
Well, IPAs are just fads anyway.
Unfortunately, it's a fad that's lasted too long. And that's a personal opinion, and everybody's allowed to their personal opinion. And they're like, you know what's, and everybody's got one.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, hey, you know what? Everything that I've ever, and I'm not blowing smoke by any means, Brian, and you know me long enough to know that I don't do that. Everything that I've ever had from you that you've brewed has been fantastic, and you definitely hit the nail on the head with a lot of the things you brewed. And Monster Mash is one of my favorites. Wooden Beanie was delicious. Blunderbore was insane. You know,
I never had Blunderbore. Vanilla Wooden Beanie.
Yeah.
Yeah, it only came out 2 or 3 times.
Right.
That's it. It's literally all it came out.
And if you had made it to Little Falls, 2 of those 3 times you would.
Yeah. I'm sure 2. Yeah, I'm sure 2 of the 3 times it was there.
I remember the first time I met Brian. I think it was the first ever New Jersey Brewers tap takeover, which was in Wayne.
At
Tap House.
Yeah, the Tap House. Yeah, Tap House Grill. Mm-hmm. I think that's the first time we met.
Mm-hmm.
That was about 10 minutes ago.
It was about 10 minutes ago. Absolutely.
It was a little ways back.
Do you remember who you were sitting at a table with that night?
I was sitting with my friend Vin.
Yeah, and then after Vin left, who were you sitting with?
I think you wandered by at some point.
It would be me, right? Yeah, exactly.
Mike Kane wandered by at some point. Brian was standing at our table after downing about 5 or 6 beers. And the best part about
that.
No, the best part about Brian is the more he drank, the more of a salesman you became. It was awesome. It was awesome.
But in a good way.
In a very, very good way.
Very good way.
It was a lot of fun.
Right.
There's so many people I met for the first time at that event.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
the best part about it is you had to talk to people because that particular room was so brick lined. You had no cell service whatsoever.
No, it was horrible. It was horrible. And I actually left work that night to go to it too. So yeah.
It was a great event, though.
I shrugged off my my bar manager duties and headed north about 5 miles. And
I think that's actually where Bolero made their debut. Legal or otherwise.
Legal debut.
Legal or otherwise.
They made their debut a couple of times at 381 and at the Copper Mine illegal.
Legal or otherwise.
Legal or otherwise.
Well, not illegally. I'm not going to say illegally, but otherwise. There you go.
Maybe the paperwork wasn't complete.
Wasn't complete.
No, maybe not entirely signed off on. The ink may have not tried yet.
Let's put it this way. No one ever purchased anything when it wasn't complete. Let's put it that way.
Correct.
But
yes.
that never happened. All right. Tastes may have happened prior to that, but nobody ever purchased anything. Samples. Right,
there were some samples. There was a few samples.
Let's be legal. Let's legal. Let's be legit about that.
Let's not throw them under the bus completely.
Not at all.
No, I'd feel sorry for that bus.
No. But I mean, kudos
big wheels
to Bob. Anytime he did come by the bar, I always got a care package. Yeah. So that was very nice of him. So. But
they just, and we didn't do industry news today, but they just signed a big partnership. Did they?
They did. They signed a partnership with Gotham City Crew. Yeah, it's
cool.
The biggest tailgate crew for Jets games. They signed a partnership with them. So the flagship beer of the Gotham City Crew for the tailgates for Jets games is Meadowlands Lager, which is obviously Bolero Snort beer.
Correct. Because you can see the stadium from their brewery.
Oh, sure, they're across the street from the damn stadium, so they're right there. They have post game hours.
Did you see the picture they posted?
Bob right in the middle of it. Yeah, I saw it.
Yeah, Bob lost some weight.
Bob lost a lot of weight.
Yeah,
he definitely did.
Good for him. Kudos,
Absolutely.
Bob.
Kudos to Bob. Cheers, Bob. But the other interesting news that actually happened, to just a quick aside too. I always look for at least one word of industry news or something like that. Apparently, Coors wants in. You're talking about New England IPAs and everything else. Apparently, Coors wants in. Blue Moon is releasing Moon Haze. It's
Moon Haze.
Moon Haze. It's called. It's a
hazy, just shoot me now.
Hazy, juicy pale ale.
Oh my God! Just shoot me now.
So they want in. They want in on the biz. Trying to.
They want all the macros want in on everything.
Of course.
Okay, so we'll have a show where we'll taste it. And it may be. Are you peeing into a bottle?
No.
Because I'm hearing something and I don't. Never mind. Anyway, we have had shows before. No, I was going to say we've had shows before where I have spit the beer out.
Once. Don't say it again.
Yeah, don't say it again. Don't say it twice more. Where I have actually spit a beer out because what did I decide to drink that?
Heineken. It was something.
Oh yeah, that's right. I drank a Heineken because it was like Dutch Beer Day. It was
Dutch Beer Day, and he had for that. He went to a local liquor store and he just picked up one. It was a single bottle of Heineken, so he took a sip of it, and it didn't even make it down his throat. He did a spit.
No.
That was it. And it was I think you mentioned that it was even more stuck than normal.
Oh.
So,
yeah, I think it was light struck. I think all Heineken. No, because it was actually in the can. I think they figured out a way to light strike a Heineken in a can.
In a can.
That's one of the flavors that they actually somehow put into. Yeah.
It's a talent.
Yeah. There you go. But I don't know why that just reminded me. We said it on the podcast a couple weeks ago with the when you and I were at Allagash a couple weeks ago, and we were talking to Lindsay, who will be on the show, by the way, on October 19th. So
we're looking forward to that one.
We're looking forward to that. But and she said we asked her what was one of the oddest things you've ever heard given a tour at Allagash, and she said, yeah, somebody actually looked at me and says, at what point do they put the alcohol in?
That is a beautiful thing.
Gotta love it. Gotta love it. So, he was pouring a beer. That's what he was doing.
I know.
He was pouring a beer.
The fact that we couldn't see it just made it suspect.
Yeah, it's like, come on, guys.
Gotta love it. Anyway, that's happened before on the show. That's why he said that too.
Well,
the name, which I will not mention again.
Not into a bottle. It was outside. And they didn't realize that the earbuds could pick up every sound around.
Right. He had a mic and his earbuds on, and he walked away from the camera and went outside and used tree number one.
Used a tree number one.
Right.
For number
to relieve
one
himself.
Yeah, and there's a MASH reference for you. Number one is for number two, and number three is for number one.
Yes.
Don't go to tree 4. That's the ladies' tree.
Yes.
So anyway, all right. Well, again, thank you.
Cool.
This has been great. Really, really great show. I mean, we got to talk about a lot of good things about beer, a lot of good things about what you did in the past, what you're doing now, and we talked about football and tailgate. And this has been awesome. Really good show. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me on the show. It was a great event.
Absolutely.
Thanks for coming on, Brian.
Definitely.
Cool.
Great seeing you again.
Yeah, great seeing you too. Absolutely.
And we will have to figure out a time when you guys can come to the stadium, and I'll cook something special.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Yeah,
we'll
do
that.
There.
We'll definitely get to a game this year, and we'll make sure we're there together, and we'll come over to the tailgate.
And save something that we can throw some She-Devil on, so you can get a taste of that
he
stuff.
can bring some She-Devil with him, and
well, if you tell me in advance, I'll bring my platform down. I'll bring the smoker down. We can smoke.
Nice.
And I'll figure out a way to get the She-Devil to you ahead of time.
Correct. Right.
Beautiful. Either that or we'll just get there really early, Dave.
Yeah, there we go.
Well, no, we want to marinate it overnight.
Well, yeah, you want to do that. So, all right. We'll definitely figure it out. All right, Brian, don't go anywhere. We're going to talk a couple minutes after we're done. Cheers to everybody. Thank you for watching the show tonight. Cheers. We're getting into the season. Prost.
Prost.
So
I can't wait till Ramstein comes out with their Oktoberfest.
You and me both, sir.
I'll get the keg of Oktoberfest, then I'll get the keg of Winter Wheat, and everybody will be jealous.
And it's all downhill. It's all downhill from there.
Yeah, because everybody says, "Yeah, I got a 6-pack." I'm like, "Yeah, I got a keg."
I got a keg. Yeah, exactly.
And both those events wind up as a line outside the brewery.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, I get to sneak in from the back.
He's got special
privileges.
So there you go. All right, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
They didn't take your key away, Brian.
I don't need a key.
He knows how to get the door.
It's a retinal scan. He gets
a
right
retinal
in there.
scan. I'm just in.
There you go. But all right, so sit tight. We'll talk to you in 1 second. We'll wrap the show up for today.
John's got to do his thing.
I got to do the spiel.
You've got a pre-game
thing,
and there's a post. There's a pre-show thing, beginning of the show thing, and then there's the end of the show thing. Here comes the end of the show thing.
You got this much beer. Don't take too long.
Oh no, it'll be a minute. Not even. Here we go. Anyway, we'll wrap the show for today. We want to thank everybody for watching. And for those of you just listening to the audio podcast, thanks for listening. Don't forget to visit our website, www.lagerroom.com. That's LAGERROOM.com. And please remember, like us and follow us on all of our social media. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and, of course, our YouTube channel. All of them are at The Lager Room. Remember, we go live with the video podcast on both Facebook and YouTube every Tuesday night at 6:30.
Ish.
Thank you. And for those of you that just want to listen to the audio podcast, you can do so on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, Stitcher, and Google Podcasts. Plus, beginning this week, the show will be now available on Amazon Music Podcasts as well. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to one or more of those feeds and you will never miss a show. Again, thanks for following along with us. Have a great rest of your week. Brian, once again, thank you so much for coming on. It's been a great show. Really appreciate it. And we will talk to everybody soon. Have a great weekend.
It took you 50 seconds.
I'm telling you. I got it down.
50 seconds. Yeah, he's
got it down pat.
Have a great weekend. Have a great Labor Day weekend.
Pat.
There you go. Drink a lot of beer, but drink responsibly, and we will talk to you soon, guys. Take care. Cheers.
Bye, all.
Bye.
My beer's empty.